Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, June 15th meeting of the Oxford Board of Selectmen. Before we get started, I would like to have all take a moment of silence or prayer for fallen officer Emmanuel or Manny Familia. Officer Familia died last Friday, as many of us know, while trying to rescue a drowning teen. He was a 5-year police department veteran. He had a wife and 2 children. He died as a hero, doing the ultimate sacrifice while trying to save another life. The Board of Selectmen, the town manager, and the residents of the town of Oxford grieved together, along with his family and friends, as well as those in the city of Worcester. So if you would take a moment to remember him, please. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes for our May 25th meeting. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 25th, 2021 as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments? Call for vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. It's 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. They are approved. Next item on our agenda is a continued public hearing for a special earth removal permit. And this is for applicant S&K Development doing the work at 19 Oxbow Road. And this is continued from our January 1st meeting. And the initial hearing was on April 20th. So are those people here again? No. Bring out and
Where would you like me to set up for?
good question.
If you have now, in person?
That looks good right there, I think.
I'm
Right?
not sure if you were circulating the additional information that we had emailed. Oh, you do have that. Maybe that's helpful. Again, my name is Mika Vasila. I'm from Schematic Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of S&K Development. And this is a continued earth removal special permit. And I would like to just hand some additional information. There was several questions that came up or comments from the board and also from abutters. And I just kind of like the opportunity to just make comment to those, if that's.
Yeah, I need to do one more thing, I think. I would like to invoke the rule of necessity in this case, because as a board, we need 4 people to vote on this, to approve it. And this is in regards to the conflict. This is in reference to the conflict of interest law, which is General Law, Chapter 268A. And as of the last report, the rule of necessity is being used to allow the matter to move forward. So if that is all right with the applicant, I would like to invoke that. All right, thank you.
One question, does that screen swing out at all?
No.
No.
Okay, because I was just thinking for the benefit of, is that more for your benefit? And I'll put this for the,
Yeah, that would work, yeah,
because it's,
sure.
and the AD tech, I think you can hear me, I have.
If you entertain
Pages of
testimony from them
If I
again,
need
you
you,
may
I'll-
have to entertain testimony from residents if they want to.
Okay.
The board to do that.
So I'd like to kind of go in order and just kind of develop some of the comments. One of the comments was just traffic. Now, you have the chairman, they hand these out. I'm not sure if you have copies.
You got enough?
Thank you. Do you have enough?
And I know there's I had given a PDF of that. What I just handed to you, one of the questions that the chairman had was the access off the property onto Oxbow Road. which would then, this is Oxbow Road here, that's north. And as we proceed, this loops down to Route 20, which is right here. On this handout that I handed you is the existing condition from Mass DOT for the slated improvements that are going to be occurring on Route 20 along the Charlton and Oxford line along Route 20, where they're introducing improvements for lane widths and sight distance and sidewalks, and I'm sure you're fairly familiar with it. If you do the second page is the proposed intersection improvement, where they're introducing a bulb turnout and a signalized intersection. So what that's going to do is enable traffic from this, any traffic from the site to go left and right onto Route 20. And also, it's going to be a several-year construction project, so that this will kind of fall in place with the projected timetable of our project. If they're slated to start next year, we may have to have implement some traffic management signage and safety along Route 20 until Mass DOT gets their project underway. But once that gets going, these can work well in concert with one another. That was item one that I wanted to present. Next thing I wanted to just quickly touch upon was there was a lot of discussion with wells. So in the interim, after our meeting, I did a little bit of homework. We contacted the Board of Health, and we obtained the Dpw well reports for the Oxbow Road, which is available online, and also the as-built information for all the abutting properties, showing where their septic systems are and where their wells are. So in the existing conditions, we added on here, on the King property, where their well is and their leach field, the Demers property, where their well and leach field is, same with the Walker, the Cabrera, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but his property, his well and septic is further off the page, out of the picture. The Knudsen property, where their well, and then the Fox property, where their well is, and then McDonald property, where their well is. Now, there was discussion, the chairman asked the question, where is bedrock on the site? Have we encountered it? The historic testing that was done in 2003, they did not encounter it, but here on the well reports, I don't know if you can zoom in on the PDF, in this area, to the right, pan to the right. Yep, and right, pan up a little bit. Yep, there we go. Here, on our existing conditions, we added well information for the various houses that were directly abutting. House number 6, house 7R, house 13, house 15. From the as-built information and the topography we were able to get an approximate elevation of where the ground is at within a foot or two, the existing ground elevation. We were in the well reports from DEP. We obtained the Weld Depths for the area, and here the Weld Depths for house number 6 is 360 feet, 7R is 645, 13 is 280, and house number 15 is 400. From there, and the reports also identifies the bedrock depths, which is 43, respectively down 43, 108, 38, 35. And then they also, the reports identify the steel casing depths and how far they go down, the static water elevation in the wells, and the well reports also identified where the pumps have been set. And in one of the reports, there's a miscellaneous note of lithology and with the gravel and the standing water was at 260 feet below grade, which is house 13. So in the handout that I just handed you, there seemed to be a question about really water sources. And as you look at that diagram, that's from the DEP's private well guidance document, which is really the basis of most of the state's Board of Health regulations. They kind of rely on this document as a guidance for water testing, lateral well location, well construction for various circumstances. Now, from looking at the well reports, when we were here last time, there was question of the wells, and obviously weren't sure of what the neighbors' wells, what they consisted of. From the well reports, we can say without a doubt they're drilled wells into bedrock and with several feet of steel casing. In looking at this diagram, it's kind of schematic of what feeds the water supplies. At the bottom left-hand side is a surface water pond. Next to that is a spring, and as you climb up the hill, you're following where there's a free-flowing artesian well, and the water table that's shaded, that's pointing, follows the topography of the land, and then higher up on the property is a non-flowing artesian well. Based on looking at where the static elevation is on these wells, I would say that we have a non-flowing artesian aquifer situation, and what dictates that static height is just the surface water that ultimately feeds that entire area. And for the most part, those elevations are down about 30 feet. On all the wells, the casing is into the bedrock at least about 13 feet, in some cases even more. So what we have here, when you're looking at this diagram, the project is looking to remove some of the overburden, which is where the lighter shade from the top of the page down, and it does not impact the deeper aquifer levels. Based on the soil testing that was done, the lowest groundwater elevation occurs here, and historically it was down 10 feet. Now with the earth removal, we're probably about 4 feet at this test pit right by the road, which is indicative of the settlement ponds that they had built and constructed for the project to catch some of the runoff. You can kind of see that. But as we move into the site, if you could advance to the second sheet, number 2. No, that's 3, one back. Thank you. We're proposing to pretty much keep the grade at the street level and then slowly pitch up at a 5% slope into the site. Once you follow that grade, in here, we are going to be roughly about 20 to 30 feet above that water table that's on the front, along the street line. And if you look on the back, if you flip to the back side, it's a standard well construction that shows when you have a drilled well into bedrock, you have the various strata layers. You have the sand, the gravel, and then the well casing is put into the bedrock. And the portions that are the water-bearing strata are much deeper. So any impact, any grading that we're going to be doing at the top is really going to not impact those lower levels of strata. And when you look at through the well documents, the DEP's private well guidance documents, they identify sources of contamination. And some sources of contamination are existent within the soil bearing, within the bedrock itself. And Oxford is one of the towns that's identified as higher levels of arsenic, higher levels of radon, radium, uranium, within just the nature of the strata that the wells have been drilled into in the bedrock. But the well siting guidelines really refer to land uses, and this type of land use does not introduce new contaminants to the surface above. It's not like it's putting in, like, let's say, a leach field at this point, or impervious surfaces, or other uses which introduce contaminants into the soil. So there was one of the abutters had identified that they had arsenic issues. That's kind of like an existing condition that is within certain areas, and it's hit or miss whether or not you're going to encounter it or not. Same with radon in your water supplies. And then the other information that, yeah. Okay. If you can go back to sheet 1. Thank you. Yeah, I think, and then some of the other features that we identified was on the as-built documents was some wetland areas over here which are beyond more than 100 feet from our property boundaries. And the elevations of these wetlands really correlate with what was the standing water level, because water seeks its own level. These elevations here are very similar to what we encountered here, and also what we see with the static pressure within, from the static water line, water elevations within the wells, which is, to me, it gives a more of a comfort factor with that the grading that we're going to be doing is not going to be impacting or introducing new sources of contamination. And if he goes to the third sheet, you can go in advance. Yep. These dark boundaries are showing the drainage divides of the property. And this is the abutting house, the lowest one that's immediately adjacent to it. The next one is house number 13. But the water flows in this direction, surface water. Again, there's a difference between the surface water and the subsurface, deeper aquifer. But the proposed project is really not going to change this area is flowing here, and we're reducing what's coming towards Route 20 and containing and capturing it in these settling areas, which will also introduce the water back into the water table recharge. Any surface water due to the change of surface topography and surface coverage. And right now it's a mix of bare earth, some trees, some brush. At the end of the project, it will be lawn, and in the future, it will be single-family homes. We'll come back and do additional testing for the Board of Health to site septic systems potentially along here with wells in the back. But that's outside the purview of this, but just kind of give a big picture. Okay, I don't know if you had any questions on.
Board members, any more questions or concerns? No?
You address the concerns with the wells. It's my understanding that the contaminants that are in the well water, that they're there naturally. The earth moving that you're going to be doing should not contaminate it any further beyond what's already there. And you addressed the safety concerns for future, couple years down the road, with exiting Oxbow onto South Bridge. I think we still had some questions about the road itself, the condition of the road, and the amount of traffic that's going to be on there. I also think there were some residents that were not necessarily aware of the continued public hearing, who weren't able to voice. We received quite the amount of correspondence over the last public meeting, so I was wondering, I see a bunch of residents here tonight, if we could go back into a public meeting to make sure, have more of a conversation between the community, you and the board all together in a public meeting forum. Would be okay to make a motion to...
I would entertain a motion now. We've allowed, them to add more information, so if they're residents, I would be in favor of that. If you want to make that as a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we reopen the public meeting,
All right.
the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All
Sorry.
right. For discussion, or
Do you want discussion?
well, do we have any discussion on that?
Are we allowed to do that because it wasn't posted in the public that we would be allowing additional comments since we already closed the public hearing and didn't do adequate advertising for it?
I talked with legal counsel because of all the additional information. What happened the last time is that you closed the public hearing portion, which is where you really should be asking the questions of the applicant or even of residences. And then when you close it, you go into just formal deliberation of the board to make a decision, either to continue it or make a decision. Legal counsel says that you do have the ability to actually entertain more public input. This would be also considered public input from the applicant. It's up to the board whether they want to do that or not, but you can do that. It's not that it's a new public hearing. You've already continued it, that was already there, but it's whether you're going to allow additional information, and it's up to the board to be able to do that, and you have the ability to do that.
Okay.
That's what Mark Richard said.
Any other comments? I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. That's for an affirmative, so we'll allow public comment. Is there someone in the public out there that would like to comment further on this particular application? I would ask you to come up, use the microphone, state your name and address, please, for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Paul Alt. I live at 25 Oxbow. Steve Knudsen is my uncle. I'm going to be obtaining the property. I've been there for 5 years. It's through the family. I'm going to be taking it over. So I have a lot of interest in this. My concern is a couple things. I'm right behind it. My cesspool and stuff is right butts the property line where they're going to be excavating up near the red there.
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah, so I'm a little concerned with that as far as everything's sand there, so I'm concerned with stuff falling. I mean, sand just falls on its own. So that whole area is nothing but sand. So how are they gonna hold all that back, for one? Two, all these trucks going up and down the road. Families walk their children up and down there. I leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, there's people walking dogs. Cars coming one way, a truck going the other way. I know not at 5 in the morning, but say 7 when they start operating. You can't fit a child, a mother, and walking a dog with another car and another truck in that area, for one. It's not wide enough. And two, operating at the hours that they're gonna. My wife works weekends. She has 2 days off during the week. She works nights. She has 2 days to sleep. When is she gonna be able to sleep? With all the equipment beeping and trucks loading and stuff, and it's right behind my bedroom. So that's my concern. I'm not opposed to somebody trying to make money and better themselves, but it's got to be at the, for everybody else, it's got to work. Is where I stand. So that's what I like to say.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can put it on sheet number 2. So you want me to address some of the...
Sure, go ahead.
This is the property that you own, right?
Yes.
Yeah, your well is here, your septic is here. The proposed grading in this area, it's just a natural 2-to-1 is the maximum slope that this town allows for earth removal projects, and we're respecting a 50-foot from the property line, and then we're coming 2-to-1 grade. We're not going to be affecting your leaching field in any way. The elevation here, the very toe of this slope, is the same elevation as the existing grade at where your leaching area is. And this proposed project is dropping down. Your house sits quite high. This is going to be actually cutting down and in, and there's already an existing bowl in this area here. So again, the way the sound travels, and he brings up a point about truck traffic and noise and sound. We have Route 20 again here, which is 26,000 vehicles per day. This is a constant hum of traffic on here. So yes, we will have the beeping of equipment. I mean, there's OSHA and DMV regulations that we're not going to be able to shut those off. But one of the stipulations with the previous earth removal project that was on this property was hours of operation and working with the neighbors with a suitable time period that doesn't impact everyone's lives as far as when the equipment's out there. I think that the applicant is more than willing to work with people, identify and reach out to them if there ends up being a problem. Hey, can you not dig here on Mondays and Tuesdays or whenever your wife is sleeping? I'm sure an arrangement from a scheduling perspective can be worked out, especially if there's somebody that's really sensitive to noise, especially I'm looking at from a topography perspective. Once this starts getting underway, there's going to be a natural berm here and here. Board Member Daniels, Dan's right. His property is probably the more directly elevationally isn't going to have that natural buffer, but there is a good 50 feet of tree buffer, and our proposed grading is another 50 feet from that. So there is some natural vegetation that's there, and that'll help screen that. So I hope that answers
So I
the
have just one more question. What's gonna stop it from?
Could you,
growing over
excuse
time?
me, sir? Could you
Yeah, I'm
come up to
sorry.
the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just so other people.
Yeah, no, I apologize.
No problem.
So over time, okay, because I've lived there for 5 years now, and everything goes downhill, okay? My driveway has gotten 6 feet bigger naturally, and it's more solid ground than what's behind my house. What are you doing to stop all that from eroding over years, or is that something I'm gonna deal with down the road?
That's nothing you're gonna deal with. Right now, with how the grading is, the
Okay.
way the existing grade's there, it was unfinished. Right now, you have steep slopes that are beyond, soil has, it's called the natural angle of repose, where if you take sand, it naturally flows to an angle, and that steepness that you don't wanna go beyond is 2 to 1.
Okay.
Right now, we're showing 2 to 1. When these get developed into, especially along here, for septic, we can't go steeper than 3 to 1. So that's gonna be even more stable than a 2 to 1. But 2 to 1 is the maximum that you can grade per the town regulations for earth removal projects.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. All right, anyone else in the public that would like, yes, come right up, sir.
Sean McDonald, 6 Oxbow Road, directly across from, I probably have the biggest frontage
Yes.
abutting the property. I'm also probably the lowest level up across from the property. I've gone through this 22 years ago where they issued a earth removal permit. And it was literally hell, excuse my language. Basically what had happened was the gentleman received his earth removal permit, and basically he set up shop in there. It wasn't just to remove the earth and get rid of it. It was to remove enough earth, move his equipment in there, run his business out of there, material, trucks, debris. It ended up becoming a laydown site. There's debris buried in that. There's brick, there's concrete, there's trees, there's stumps. Rainstorms, the water was washing all the way down Oxbow Road to, I don't know what number that is up there, the very last lot.
27?
No, right
Oh,
here.
the next-
This house here,
That's number 27.
all the way down the road, and then crossing the road, going into the wetlands behind my property, which I have wetlands down here, okay? I had friends drive by in the morning and call me and say, hey Sean, why is your pond so brown? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe a guy across the street. Sure enough, lot of storm water just runs down that road. There's no catch basins, there's no drain, there's nothing to catch the water. Other than he had mentioned the small pond, retention pond at the entrance of the property that would always overflow in serious downpours. Wasn't big enough, couldn't contain the water. Overflowed every time it rained out. Down the roads, into my property. I mean, I could go on and on. Trucks parked on the road. The road is, I mean, the environmental impact on the road was ridiculous. Trucks coming in, backed up, waiting to dump. I just don't want to see this again. I'm all for development. I'd like to see houses in there, but I don't want to see 5 years and then an extension for 5 years to clear lots to build houses. I'm in the business. It doesn't take 5 years to clear property to build houses. There's no way it takes 5 years to clear gravel to build houses, okay? I see this as becoming a site where they're gonna utilize the property, which, hey, everybody has their right to, but I see them clearing the lot, utilizing the gravel for other jobs, other sites as builders, okay? Hey, we need some gravel over at, Joe Jenny Drive or whatever. Go get some loads. They screen it, bring it over there. There's gonna be trucks parked there. There's gonna be equipment parked there. There's gonna be materials brought there. That's what I don't want. If this is an earth removal permit, I want it to be very strictly enforced, and I want to see it done at a reasonable time. I don't want this trucks going, just basically it's a new site for them. It's a new construction site. They're gonna park all their equipment there. It's gonna be staying there. It's trucks, material. I don't know if that's part of earth removal. As far, I understand you're gonna have screeners, maybe some dozers, some heavy equipment. But I don't wanna see material parked there. I don't wanna see stuff getting dumped in there from sites that they, say they do a remodel job or they're doing a demolition job somewhere and they bring the material in and they dump it there because they have nowhere else to bring it, or they don't wanna pay to go get it dumped somewhere else. It ends up over there. I dealt with it. The lots all across the street are basically all the Auburn High School from the last guy, bricks and concrete and rebar. I mean, I could go on and on. I just do not want to see this type of work again. The guy violated his special permit ridiculously as far as times of operation, dust, keeping the dust down, drainage. I mean, I don't even, it's ridiculous. It was just ridiculous. And I don't want to go through this again. I've lived there 23 years, and I went probably 8 years of my 23 years there dealing with this stuff. And I just don't want to see it happen again. I really don't.
All right.
Not that this may not, but I do have pictures from the last deal. There's a lot of these pictures show a lot of stuff that's been going on, a lot of stuff that's actually buried in the ground over there. And I just don't want to see it happen again. So
Understood.
if I'd like to submit these to anybody that wants to see them at any time, they can also see those too.
Thank you. These are new owners, so, what the previous owner did,
No, I
it's-
totally
it's
understand that.
So,
Believe me, I would love to see 3 houses go over there.
yeah,
But I don't see 3 houses going in here in like 5 years of earth removal and then saying, oh, we need an extension for 5 more years of earth removal.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way it takes that long to take out that kind of gravel.
Mm-hmm.
I have plenty of friends that are in the business, earth removal business, and there's no way it should take 5+ years to remove the earth out of that. If you're doing an earth removal,
Project.
strictly earth removal,
Right.
it doesn't take 5 to 10 years to remove that amount of dirt to put 3 house lots basically maybe 50 feet off the road, 100 feet off the road.
okay,
Thank you.
very good, thank you. Yes, you may, please.
I don't disagree with the 5 years, that's the length of the permit, and I'm sure the owners would want to get it out quicker if possible. Again, that's driven by the market. And the amount of yardage that we have here, I've worked on other projects that within a month, they easily move 50,000 yards. This could be hauled out of here, but that adds the other element of traffic. How many trucks do you want to see at a given time? So if you stretch this out for 5 years, you're looking at 7 trucks a day, Monday to Friday, 8 months out of the year. Could you accelerate it? Absolutely. And it's market driven, obviously demand. And with the road project slated to be just down the street, I can see a favorable balance there that goes out to bid, maybe to Mass DOT, that, hey, we need some material. Oh, there's some material right here instead of trucking it from all from town or another part of the state. As far as the drainage, when this was done 20 years ago, there was an attempt. There were some low ponds that were constructed. What we've done here is we're mimicking what the current stormwater standards are for the state. And we have larger ponds here. We have stone riprap swales and check dams to filtrate, to remove that sediment that does happen. As you stir in the ground, you're going to have sediment. So what we have here is a forebay and a recharge area for each of these stormwater basins, which are probably, just by eyeball, 6 or 7 times larger than what's there now. So again, it gives a place for that settlement. We need that settlement time, so we need a little bit larger space. As far as runoff and condition of the road, the runoff from here, there's such a crown on this road where we're discharging here. This is going north from it. It's not going to be coming across the street. I think that's one of the comments that you were.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but it still ends up on my property, okay?
Via
Because there's no catch basins or anything. So all that storm water goes down the street and then it crosses at the bottom. And it goes all into the wetlands and ends up in the back of my property.
And the goal with us from a stormwater perspective is to balance the storms. That what falls today, falls tomorrow, whatever drop of water falls here is eventually going to make its way down there. So what we've done here is made larger basins to catch that differential, that water. What they didn't do, the previous owner, when they clear cut this, right now, the condition that is, it's fallow soil, bare soil, that just sheets water very quickly. At the end of the project, this is going to be finished off and ultimately homes, and that'll be a more stable and a slower runoff rate. When you have a steep slope, when you have an embankment, water just flushes right down. Here, we're proposing to flatten that out. It gives more time for that water to seep into the ground and not run down the street. And I realize there's no drainage here. There's a catch basin over here and a culvert crossing over here, which discharges towards Route 20. But along here, there's just an eroded ditch along the side.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
So my other concern is you're saying you're making those ponds bigger, okay? So where is your access gonna be? Because I know there's a very small access getting into that lot already.
We're gonna utilize that existing and enlarge it.
So how much larger is that pond gonna get? And which way is it going?
It's going to the north.
Okay, so basically, if it's going to the north, you gotta eliminate a lot of hillside before you can even build that pond. That's my concern. So what are you gonna do while you're eliminating that big banking first before you create that bigger pond to catch all that
Here,
water?
you incrementally start grading in. You start making your low point there. You start making a low point here, and then you work inside.
I understand that, but you're gonna create the pond as you're digging out? Is that what you're saying?
You have to create the drainage point. This is catching drainage from up here, not right where we're at.
Well-
You're making a hole in the ground.
Yeah, I'd have to disagree. I mean, honestly, there's one road in there. It's a sloping driveway that goes
Yeah,
straight
right
in,
here.
around the corner, up to the top.
Correct.
All the water from the very top of that lot, all the drainage water starts at the top and it follows that driveway all the way down,
Yeah, it meanders up.
meanders all the way down into that tiny little pond that's right near the
Correct.
gate, okay? So what I'm saying to you is, how are you gonna contain all that water if you have to take out all this hillside first before you can build the pond bigger?
We can build a pond bigger right here where it's already level and clear. We're gonna expand what's there. There's a little spot.
So wait,
This is-
help me understand this, because this is a very narrow spot where trucks are gonna be coming in here.
This is 24-foot wide driveway.
Yes, so if this is the pond, is this the pond you're talking about, or are you talking over here?
This is the entire, this is a pond here, and then there's a pond here. This is catching water. This pond here is catching water here.
Yes, I understand.
And so-
This pond here is very tiny, it's not that large.
Well,
That pond could
this is
fit in
proposed.
here.
No, this is proposed.
That pond could fit in here.
Mr. McDonald, once we move forward with the earth removal permit, there's a special condition already in place
Okay,
that the ponds have to be in place, erosion control, water control have to be in place before they can do any earth removal whatsoever.
Sure.
So those ponds will be in place, and then they can determine how the
But
placement
it
of the
needs
road.
to dig to make the pond. I mean, you gotta crack an egg to make an omelet. I mean, you have to dig a hole to.
no, I understand it, honestly, I just want things to be like dotted and crossed, because I don't wanna go through that again. I don't wanna go through what we went through again.
Understand.
I do have one question for Mr. McDonald.
Sure.
Currently, right now, the way the property sits, since the last site's been closed out and before they've done any of their work, are you still seeing a water issue during rainstorms coming out of that
Yes.
driveway down the road
That pond
into your backyard?
overflows. That little pond that's right near the road, it'll overflow.
Okay.
It'll overflow down the
It's
bottom.
not big enough,
Yeah.
ultimately. Yeah,
And what I also noticed there too is the former owner, so across the driveway, so,
there's a gate, there's a trailer.
yeah, so basically, this is the driveway in, and there's a fence here, so over here, he probably put in like a culvert or something, and his pipe's running from the culvert into that little pond also. So there's a lot of, I don't know if it's groundwater or not, but from the culvert over here to that pond too also flows into that small pond also.
Okay.
So it's taking a lot of water.
And I wouldn't be surprised either, over time, any of these types of ponds, these are temporary for construction, the intent is you go in and muck them out, clean them out as the sediment builds up. So this is sat for 20 years. I can easily see that these have just silted up, years of leaves and sediment and everything else that's in there that they're not taking water and they're not big enough. So that's proposed here. If you can go back to the first page, sheet 1, it's right here where they had done a test pit. It's not much bigger than the test pit, probably the size of this area here. So it's not very big. That's there currently, so we're proposing to make that quite a bit larger. And typically you want to have, for every acre that you're draining, you want 3,600 cubic feet of storage for every acre that's draining. So that's what these are sized along those parameters. Again, to catch more runoff.
Very good. Anyone else in the, of the public comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, Mark Walker at 11 Oxbow Road. I think one of the biggest concerns is this is an open-ended gravel pit for 5 to 10 years, right? They purchased this land and what we thought was the intent to build a home or two, right? So now it's turning into this gravel pit nightmare again. A lot of us work from home now. Things have changed in the last decade, 15 years, right? I work from home. My wife works from home. I enjoy my lunch outside, sitting out and enjoying, nature, right? So that's going to end because I'm going to smell the diesel. I'm going to hear the trucks like I did before. Being down in a bowl is not going to change the sound because he was already down in a bowl. It's going to echo and amplify. I'm going to hear it all day. I'm going to smell the fumes all day, and it's going to drive me nuts, and then we're going to have Route 20 going on in tandem. We're going to be held hostage for the next 5 to 10 years. No one's going to want to buy a home. Like if I decide I want to sell, who's going to want to buy a home next to an active gravel pit, right? Who's going to want to take a walk down the street like my wife and I like to go for a run, with all those trucks up and down the road? There's no sidewalks. That road is barely wide enough for one truck. It's bad enough when Schmidt equipment has to come up there to turn around or Arnie's has to come up. Granted, the Route 20 project will address that, but it's not going to address the traffic up and down that street all day long with all those trucks. And that's not what I signed up for. What the previous owners did, it has nothing to do. That's done. That was done. And in my eyes, I was like, all right, good. That thing's done. Now it's starting over again. It doesn't sit well with me. And it felt like at the last hearing there was it seemed like you guys just wanted to push this through without even listening to what we had to say. There was a comment about, they've been, since 2003 this has been going on. It has nothing to do with the new owners. This is a brand new deal, right? There's no reason we have to push this through at the expense of all the neighborhood that does not want this to go through, to deal with all this noise and traffic and nightmare. And the road itself can't handle all this traffic. I said my piece last time. I wanted to add a couple of things. I know I sent you something. I'm not going to read every point off of it, but those are the major concerns is quality of life and the danger to the road. I mean, we've got people who are going to be new drivers coming up and down that road, trying to face those trucks. It's bad enough with regular traffic, never mind, young kids who are not going to be getting their licenses and having to deal with all these trucks all day long. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. Anyone else?
Just a general comment to the board and just to the audience. The way this property is right now and the way it's been left in the town of Oxford, anytime you remove more than 500 yards of material, you need a special permit. To create a lot here to develop this, we would only be able to carve out a 20 by 20 box off the street. We would need to come to this board to get an earth removal project, or earth removal permit, in conjunction with the development of the lot. So, yes, the goal is to get single-family homes in there. There's enough area and frontage there for 3 lots, but to carve 3 lots in, we first need to level it and make it flat. And I understand that there's debris and the previous owner had made a mess of it. And I've walked out there, I've seen it. And there's concrete, there's rubble piles, there's broken down trailers, and all those things need to be cleaned up.
I understand. If you were going in there to clean it up and level it out a little, put a house in there, that'd be great. But you talk about managing the dust. There's nothing you can do to manage the dust off hours. When it's windy, that's just going to create a whole bunch of dust. During the day, yeah, you're wetting it down. That's great. But as soon as you guys are gone, the sun comes out, it all dries up, and it turns into a big dust bowl. 5 to 10 years of that. I don't think you really understand. I read the article about the recent earth removal extension you did for, was it Lancaster or Coin? I can't remember the name of the Keating.
Yes.
Yes. And all the neighbors, got passed, but all the neighbors are, of course, unhappy about it. The dust, the traffic.
200-acre quarry.
I get it.
That's a
But
much bigger project.
Same principle though, right?
Oh, it is.
And
It is.
it is. And it's not something that I'm looking forward to having to deal with. And frankly, those concerns seem to be, it's not a big deal, right? 5 to 10 years of that, we want to put in, and no commitment to build any houses at the end of it. It could be that, we've got our material, we walk away, or you put an access road to get out into those landlocked acres that are out there that, it's just,
One of the stipulations with earth removal is that you leave enough material behind that you can develop it. That's one of the.
I'm not saying it couldn't be developed, but.
No, but what I'm saying is that one of the stipulations for the earth removal is that we leave enough material that if you develop it, it's not left as a wasteland.
Sure.
Which is how it is now.
Yeah.
So moving forward, some sort of earth removal is needed to make this.
I get that,
Okay.
But to the extent of what we're talking and the length of time, it seems excessive. Again, it's becoming a gravel pit, not a piece of property that somebody wants to do, 36 months, get some earth moved, get the houses, get them put in. Oh, we can only fit 1 or 2 because based on the conditions, it seems very aggressive and very extensive for putting the neighborhood through all that. And if any of you live near it, you wouldn't want to have to deal with that for 5 to 10 years of uncertainty and noise and traffic and all that. So I just hope that you can think about how we feel as a neighborhood, not just what do we mean to the town to get an extra parcel or 2 of tax revenue. Thank you.
And I understand his point. Where I live at my home, there's an abandoned gravel pit that dirt bikes ride in and misuse of the property, and I can see those concerns, but that's not what's being proposed here. And also there's mechanisms here for enforcement conditions and peer review from the town and from the board.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm Mike Carrella. I live at 7 on Oxbow. Yeah, up on the hill. You got it. I've been working construction since I got out of high school. I grew up on the side of a D8. As a kid like this, my father stripped gravel pits with a D8, D9. Scrapers. That's a thing of the past. Your clients didn't buy a gravel pit. If they bought lanes in Oxford, that's an ongoing gravel pit. Quarry, like Keating. It would be one thing. You bought a piece of property. You didn't buy anything, a gravel pit. And now you're trying to turn it back into a gravel pit. I agree. There's one neighbor that didn't complain about this. Me and Mr. Walker went down the street from 1 to the Charlton line. And we even had people from Charlton against it because they're within, how far would you say Priscilla Lane is? From the woods, from here, the back. And they're all taxpayers in the town of Oxford. Quarter mile?
Yeah.
Not even. It's a lot of noise. It's what I do for a living. Just the backup beepers, the trucks. You pull in, beep, beep, good enough, and the truck's backing up all day long. The road's junk. I don't know if anyone's taking a walk down Mike Cass because he lives there. I heard Mr. LaMarche was down there. I don't know if anybody else went down there. It's not the place for that many dump trucks. You didn't buy a gravel pit. I don't know if you've seen any of the neighbors' houses, Paul's, the A-frame. You ever walked up his driveway?
I drove down.
I have a 4-wheel drive. He probably has all he can do to get in and out of his driveway with a bumper scrape. As I said before on the Zoom, you bought a lot that's a hill, bulldoze it around, cuff it up, deal with it. Mr. Daniel's backyard, have you seen his backyard? Have you looked through the?
I haven't been on.
You don't need to flatten this out. You're an engineer,
Correct.
but I'm a blue-collar worker and I have a little common sense too. I've installed plenty of septic systems, sewer lines. You don't need a perfectly flat piece of farmland to build a house.
Well, you don't.
You can, that A-frame is higher than your property. right? Mr. McDaniel's backyard, his septic system, the top of his septic system is the top of his house. Right out of his deck. You can put a septic system on that hill. It might cost you a little more money, it might be a pump system. I think what you're proposing, and I'm really pissed off, if you can't tell. It seems like it was trying to be pushed through. There's a couple selectwomen that wanted to vote on this last time. We had a couple minutes to speak on Zoom. It was closed. Let's put it to vote. What about the taxpayers? Like I said, how many houses from 1 to 31? Does anybody know how many taxpayers on Oxbow Road? I don't have the count off the top of my head. And even people in Charlton. The noise is going to be, you're going to have screening plants. There's boulders. I've got boulders on my property, right? Big boulders. Bang, bang, bang. But explain to people what it is. It's not a jackhammer. You're going to have something bigger than any piece of equipment this town has. Bigger than parked in John Deere. You're going to have excavators with a hammer on there. Right? The pin's about that big and about that tall. Bang, 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 all day. Crush it up. Run it through your screener. Just cuff it out with a bulldozer, excavator. Build what you can and get the hell up. We can't be putting, what if I want to sell my house? What if anybody wants to sell their houses on the street? We have to sign, oh yeah, there's an open gravel pit down there. And they got a permit for 5 years. And then after 5 years, you want to come back and maybe get another permit before you commit. It needs to be just done and dealt with. Or sell the piece of property to someone else and let them just deal with it. You don't need to have a gravel pit. I mean, it's not what we signed up for. We're the taxpayers in the town unless somebody wants to pay our tax bills to be done. I pay a ton of money. A ton of money to this town. We all do. I don't think we should have to put up with this for 1 minute, other than what's a building permit good for a year? Go in, get it done. Get out of Dodge. Not 10,000 trips on a truck. If anybody would like, I'll bring my truck that I drive, right? My crane, 100,000 pound crane. A little smaller than a triaxle though. And I'll drive by your house all day long and see how you like it. By your house. By Mr. Smith's, if that's what I gotta do. Right? I just don't see it. You know, that's totally nuts. Charlton's not gonna let you go through that. So you have to come in and out. And the timetable you're proposing, how long is the Route 20 project gonna take once it starts? Does anybody know?
3 years.
Okay.
2 to 3 years.
It ain't gonna start for a year or two. So until it starts, and then while it's going, you're gonna be a hair across their ass. You know, it's not gonna be easier, it's gonna be worse. The end of Oxbow Road, if I took a crane home the other night, last week I woke all my neighbors up at 5 in the morning leaving. I don't generally do that, but I did. How are you gonna get out of Oxbow Road in front of the people that won with the race car? You're gonna be sitting there broadside like that. Your truck drivers, you won't. And what happens when my wife or my two 21-year-old girls come home and they're trying to get on that street? They have to stop in. You have all you can do to get on my street without getting rear-ended. Just slow down like people should to go by 1, 3, 5, 7, all the houses. So when you're coming off of Route 20 and there's a dump truck sitting there, I never go out that way. You can't even pull out of Glen now across 4 lanes of traffic. That's why they're doing this whole thing. You have to get on Oxbow to the left. When I'm there with my pickup truck, you know how long it takes to get out? Because you have to make I used to drive a dually 4-door. Your triaxle's a lot longer. They're not gonna be able to pull out. Every school bus, every trash truck turns around in my driveway. And I don't complain because it's a safety issue. All right? My driveway is like 30 feet wide. I've been up there with tractor trailers. I've tractor trailers turn around. Schmidt. Every garbage truck, every school bus that comes down my road can't go out that way. So how are you guys gonna do it? You're gonna be sitting there at the light. And God knows, usually, because the light cycles, 3 or 4 cars at a time come down that road, okay? Where's one gonna sit where your tracks are blocking the road? They're gonna get rear-ended. You're gonna make traffic 10 times worse. You know, the normal trips of a house lot, what are you talking, 4 or 5 cement trucks, 4 or 5 stone trucks, maybe for the septic system, maybe some topsoil, maybe some deliveries of lumber. But this is totally, totally crazy. Totally. I think I said enough.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? All right, not seeing none, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make that motion.
Second.
And now we'll call for a vote.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Public hearing is closed. Yikes. All right, board members. Before you all get started, I have just a couple questions that I'm sure these I think they've been answered. Yeah, around this property, you will have silt barrier and hay bales. That's
Yes.
all required because of
Yes.
normal construction. And I would presume the entranceway would have a good stone base.
Construction entrance, yes.
Yeah, so that to limit as much coming onto the road as possible. That's normal construction. Is there any processing going on in this site? You know, that's a good question that, you know,
I'm not sure if you're proposing any processing, what you're possibly.
so there would be. So there generally could be a certain amount of noise and conditions they have to deal with in that regards. Okay. And then the dust control, yeah, that's all the residents, it's a big issue, I know. I know down where I am, there's an earth removal and you just can't help it. They wet it down as much as they can. They put down salt or whatever it is. But those are all conditions that are in Jared's, in your thing, right? Okay, well, I'll shut up for a minute. Any other board members want to say anything or have any questions? Yes, Selectman LeBlanc.
So I want to just address a couple of things. So when I received the letters, because there were multiple letters, some people signed some people signed others. The letter was the same, but it was different people. So when I got that letter from D, I want to say that within 20 minutes, I had phone calls or emails out to everyone who signed that letter, who provided a phone number or an email address, just to chat with them. Of course, Mr. Daniels didn't sign the letter, of course, but, and I was able to speak with 2 people because I got them on the phone. And, you know, it was very interesting talking to them because there are some people up in that area who have some really great institutional knowledge. You know, they understood what happened back in 04 and 03. And it was, you know, and it was interesting, you know, to kind of hear what was going on. And I certainly, you know, understand that. I did not receive any phone calls nor emails back from anyone else. But the letter was signed. So, I mean, that was fine. I mean, it came in through the Selectmen's office. But, you know, I've welcomed everyone and anyone to reach out to me and chat with me. I think I spoke with Mr. McDonald and Mrs. McDonald for over 30 minutes that night. As far as us sitting back and just, you know, stamping this, and I'm sure that, you know, if you're not in the municipal world, it's hard to see this, but there's about a good 8 weeks of work, if not more, before it hits us. So my skill set is not DPW work. God, Jared does not want that at all. Okay, that's not my skill set. Someone actually made a comment in the letter that was sent that because I do mortgages, I'm biased. Well, I don't quite understand how I'm biased, but okay, I understand that. But I do want to say that I think, I mean, the points that are made were very, very good. I don't take any of them lightly. Mr. Carrabba, if you'd like to drive down my street, it's 11 Foster Street. You're more than welcome to. I've got my own set of trucks and my own set of issues that go on in that street. My neighbors hate me because I won't call up and complain about the street because I'm afraid people will think that I'm trying to use undue influence. So I hear you. I really do hear you. And I do want to just thank very quickly, I'd like to thank Jared Duval because we only gave him 2 weeks to kind of come up with some more things that we had heard from the residents from that short public hearing. And he had, he's come up with some things in the nick of time. So I really just want to say again, thank you to the participants and certainly all the people. And if there's one thing that I'm very clear on is that I do feel very confident that the contractor we have here now is not the same contractor we had from 03 and 04. I do think that. But I just wanted to just clarify those couple of things, Mr. Chairman. So thank you.
Very good point. Thank you. Anyone else?
Just, there was a lot said tonight, and there's clearly a lot of emotion behind what was discussed. There were some additional safety concerns that were brought up tonight in regards to the trucks entering and leaving the property and the hillside on the opposite side of the road. It's pretty steep going into those other properties. In regards to other traffic on the road and having to go around the trucks as they come in and out. If I were to consider moving forward with this project, I would want to see some sort of special condition in place regarding potential flaggers. That's a very sharp blind corner there, so flaggers on both sides of the entrance, just slowing traffic or holding traffic.
Like with any utility work.
Right. While the trucks are entering and leaving the property, and then something in place to address the steepness of the properties on the opposite side of the road. In the event somebody has to swerve out of the way, or last minute, or something happens with one of those dump trucks coming out of the property. Full brakes, full dirt, something happening with the brakes. It is steep on the other side. I'm not quite sure. The length of this permit is extremely significant, as everybody's addressed tonight. And you guys have talked about how you may not be active every business day, just because the price of the fill is what's going to drive the movement of this project. And if that's going to be the case, something needs to be in place for dust control on the days that you're not operating, because it is a hillside and it does catch wind. And just because you guys aren't doing work, once you pull all that vegetation out that's since grown into there, it is going to be a big dust bowl again. And then also, I personally would like to see some sort of special condition for Oxbow Road to be reclaimed, something in place prior to the start of the work. That's a significant amount of heavy vehicles moving daily on that road and over the course of the project. That road is going to be in disrepair by the time the project is done, and I think the residents of that road have addressed numerous times their concern for the road now and then the road afterwards. In the memo that Jared had sent out, there were some estimates in there, but again, that's 5 years down the road with the potential to pull another permit for additional removal. And that amount of heavy traffic on the road, we don't know what condition the road's going to be in at that point, and we do know it's not going to be good because it's already on the bad side of things. So I would want a special condition in place for the reclaiming the road, I think is the way it was worded in the memo. These printouts you gave, again, that could be 2 years down the road, that could be 5 years down the road, depending on which end of the road they start on and how long it takes to get down to Oxbow if they start on the Auburn side. So again, huge concern about pulling out of Oxbow in its current state into Route 20 oncoming traffic. And there's just too many hypotheticals in regards to the state using the fill or the state fixing that issue right away. So I definitely don't want to rely on that. I feel like I've thrown a lot out also at this point. Are those special conditions that you guys have considered?
What are you exactly? Which condition, like flaggers?
So
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no doubt.
The condition of the road, pretty much redoing the road at the completion.
Cost prohibitive.
What's that?
That's probably cost prohibitive.
Okay.
I don't know what your estimates are, but we're looking at it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Jerry Duval, DPW Director. So in my memo to the town manager, and this was, just qualify a couple things in my memo before I start, if that's okay, from earlier today. So one of which we had touched on is the traffic safety issue at the intersection of Oxbow and Route 20. And I talk about a little bit about the potential overlap with as Mika has spoke to. I mean, at this point, this is based on tentative schedules from MassDOT. I mentioned the potential for flagging and traffic control there, but really it's based on anecdotal information from the state at this point. So I just want to inform you to maybe take that portion of my memo with a grain of salt at this point. We don't know what DOT's traffic control program is going to be. I think Mr. Daniels makes a very good point about the idea of flaggers. I would say potentially at the point of egress from the site, potentially at the intersection. Maybe that's something the board may consider in terms of a special condition, is to have some sort of detail in place, if it's police details or flaggers. But with respect to the roadway, the reclaiming work, basically, this was a conversation I had very briefly with the project proponents after the meeting 2 weeks ago. We spoke downstairs and mentioned that, be prepared for the potential discussion on mitigation measures, which may include paving the road from the point of egress from the property to Route 20. That's going to serve as the designated trucking route. So what we had done in DPW here is put together a couple different scenarios of what that may cost based on current available bid pricing through Mass DOT and through bids that we've seen. One option that we present in the memo is a shim and overlay of the present road, which is coming at a cost of approximately $115,000. That's in current dollars, so that's not inflated to a future point when this work may happen at the culmination of the earth removal work. In my opinion, not a viable option really, because it's really sort of a Band-Aid measure. It would be an improvement over what's there, but it's really not going to get much longevity out of that repair. So we present another mitigation measure would be to actually reclaim the road, full depth pavement reclamation, regrade and repave, and that would come in at a cost of approximately $160,000 for the just under 1,700 feet that is that limit from their parcel to Route 20. And that was for the board's consideration, if that would be a special condition for this, should they want to move forward with affirmative action on the permit application. Oxbow Road, that's a PCI, pavement condition index. We have, as you may be well aware, we have a pavement management program in place. That's the current PCI of Oxbow is a 50, so out of a scale of 0 to 100, it's right there in the middle. It's indicative of a road that is in poor shape. While it's in poor shape, it was never designed for this level of truck loading. There are several means of analysis that either DPW can do or a consultant can do for us with maybe the assistance of the project proponent to be able to evaluate what that increased truck traffic may do to the road, what it would mean in a drop in PCI. It's something that I'd looked into leading up to this meeting. We didn't have the resources at the time to complete that sort of analysis, but it's safe to say that there would be some additional life of that pavement consumed by the additional truck loading. What that number is, I can't say at the moment. So that's just a brief overview of that particular mitigation measure that Mr. Daniels had alluded to. I don't know if there's any particular questions for me, on that, on the analysis that DPW had done or the cost estimates. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have from a DPW perspective and purview.
Yes, Selectman LeBlanc.
Very quick question, Jared. And again, no crystal ball. We don't know what it's going to cost. I mean, we could have another pandemic, right? I mean, who knows? At this point, anything can happen. Is Oxbow Road on our list of roads to be repaired over the next 5 years?
It would not be. It's again
because it's 50.
Because it's a 50 and we prioritize based on things like traffic volume, the classification of the road. Oxbow is most certainly, it's a rural local road, low traffic volume besides the folks that live there primarily. We have limited dollars, obviously in our budget, as you're well aware, so we try to spread those out to the projects that see the most traffic volume. So Oxbow is not on the list to be imminently paved as part of our program.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, one other quick question. So on the follow-up, as a follow-up, so if you're going to do something like this, do you pave the road and make it 100% or 5 whatever your index is? Do you pave it, then let the trucks go over it? Or do you let it sit in its current state, let them use the roads as they are, give the wear and tear on it, so to speak? What lasts longer? So
in my opinion, I would forego the work till after the anticipated
thinking.
truck traffic, because we wouldn't be, if we were to do this project now on our own, pulling the earth removal project out of it, we wouldn't design that road for that type of truck loading.
At all?
At all. It wouldn't be with that classification of roadway. It would be overkill to put that amount of payment down or whatever we may do, so.
It would be like making Foster Street 290,
Essentially, yeah,
right.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you, that's all I have.
No problem. I had a question though. What typically do you know what the bond value is on a job like this?
We've done, I think in the special condition from the initial memo I'd sent, and this was in line with previous, it was $3,500 per acre, I believe.
Yeah.
Is what we've done historically.
And how many acres are here?
I think you said 3.7, right?
The earth removal project is 3.7.
3.7.
The property is 6.
6, okay.
So you're talking about 100,000, right? 130,000.
30,
Yeah.
35,000?
Yep.
Yeah, 35,000 per acre.
No, 3,500. 3,500.
Oh, 3,500.
3,500, yeah, Mr. Chairman.
So sorry.
I don't want your checkbook, Dennis. No.
I don't. That's why I have my beautiful wife. I deal nothing with money. All right, because my big thing is, one of the big things is the road improvement, and I know that's in your memo to us that we would increase the bond. That's why I'm asking that question, because I agree with Selectman Daniels. I think we're gonna ruin that road. That is a lot of truck traffic, and I like the idea of the flaggers. I don't know if I'm taking away any questions that you wanted to ask first.
No, I have.
Yeah,
I'm
why don't you, because I'll go on.
trying to figure out how to formulate it.
Okay,
I guess.
then I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
All right, because, as far as the public, this job up here is not easy. we're never right. We're always, we hear the negative and stuff, and I can feel for every one of you, and I can understand. And like I said, I don't live directly across from where they're removing the earth on Old Webster Road, but I'm right there, and I move it all the time, and so I see that condition, and they're doing a real good job, I have to say, over there. The roadway's in good. But to me, the other issue we have as a board member is legality issue. We cannot, I wasn't in favor of this last week, not at all, or the last time we met. You probably could have understood that from my statements and my questions. I've done my research in the meantime, and we really got to dig deep to find a reason why I can't approve this. Okay, so I'm telling you as a public, I understand your concerns. We're going to put in the conditions for water testing to check your wells. I'll tell you right now, if you have a water issue that from this thing here, give us a call, because I personally, if I'm on this board, will get it corrected. That's all I can say. It doesn't help you, I know, but I see as these conditions that we're definitely going to have to put in for the road. Limiting the dust as hours of operation going to be real important to me. What do we consider the hours? 8 to 4 or something like that?
I think that's what's typical, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there may be a duration of the year, obviously. I put, for the sake of the analysis, for truck trips to and from the property, I think we figured like from an April 15th to November 15th, like a typical construction duration, but obviously it's the board's discretion at what that.
Weather pending, every season is a little
Weather
different.
pending,
We have
yeah.
early winter, late winter.
Yeah, so there's a lot of conditions in Jared's proposal here that they will have to meet. And but I definitely think the road improvement, as Selectman Daniel said, is a must. Flag is a must. Monitoring the wells and the water. And there better not be any water runoff. I know silt fence and hay bales can do just so much, but I know I built in New Hampshire and I was on a main drag, and we had a torrential storm one time, and I can remember being in this thunder and the lightning and putting down more bales of hay and stuff, because I lived right across from the lake, and I knew if that ended up in the roadway, I was in deep doo-doo. So we were out there, and that's what we do, and that's what you're gonna have to do. Because I don't want these people to have 5 years of a nightmare, that's, it's just, they've been through hell already. Pardon my grammar also, but, so anyway, I've said my piece. Did you finally formulate?
I guess.
All right.
I know that a lot of you were frustrated with me personally last time, and I apologize for how you interpreted me. I did my research prior to it. I went through the presentation that had been submitted to us. I went through the recommendations of Jared. I do hold Jared's opinion in high regard. He's the professional, I am not. So I have to take his expertise as, he's done his due diligence as well. As far as your personal frustrations, I feel you. It is frustrating. We had construction done on our road. My front yard, when it rains, is now a swimming pool. Every time we get heavy rain, I need to buy more mulch for my flower bed. And it's because of how the road was restructured when they did the construction. It's frustrating, I get it. But at the same time, like Dennis said, there's a lot that we have to take into consideration with these permits. So the reason that I was saying before that we should look into the water thing and then potentially approve it based on that was because I had done my homework beforehand, and the water did concern me greatly. I don't want anybody's water to ever be affected because of a construction project that my name is on. I do feel comfortable with the reports that were given based on the water mitigation, or water questions that were brought up. And as far as your frustrations for the work, I apologize. I feel you. I hear you. But I get the feel from the contractor that they're going to work with you to the best of their ability as well. And we've kind of, I believe it was Selectman LeBlanc last week that said she wants to have an open line of communication, or maybe it was Selectman Daniels. I'm not sure which one it was, I'm sorry, but want to have an open line of communication throughout the process as well, because we don't want you to be miserable and hostages for the next 5 years. My question for Jared, I know you said that the street's at about a 50 now, and you might not be able to answer it now, but with the current rate of deterioration, I guess, would it still be about a 50 at the end of 5 years without the project, or would it?
No, it would be falling down that pavement deterioration curve. How many percentage points or how many PCI, I can't say offhand.
Okay.
But it would continue to fall. There's essentially an algorithm that our program's based on.
Right.
So untouched, it would continue to drop.
But this would kind of drastically
This would
accelerate
accelerate,
it
yeah.
because of the
think
increase in heavy vehicles.
I think that's fair to say. Yep.
Okay. Can you offer, and it might have been something that Dennis had touched on, like a suggestion for an increased bond based on your estimates?
I think it would have to be sufficient to cover the value of that work, potentially, is my opinion on that.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Sure. And I agree. I agree with that. At least it would help the residents when this is said and done, that they'd have a nice road. If that's any consolation, I guess. But anyway, any more questions or comments from the board? Oh,
Good.
I just want the record to state, I've been up to Oxbow Road 5 times since this came out. I just want the record to state that. I was asked to, no, I'm just kidding. I was not asleep. I was there 5 times. I did not go up anyone's driveway for private property reasons, but I have gone up there a number of times. My kids are tired of driving up there. I'm all set.
all right, Mike.
So with all the discussion that we've had so far, we need some improved special conditions written out.
Well, we can vote on this, and then it's up to Jared and town manager. Do you get involved, or is this more like Jared and the company that make sure our conditions are met?
Well, I think the conditions have to be quite spelled out, and I
First.
would recommend that before you vote. An
Okay.
example, I asked Jared to look into the road pieces of it and do the calculations for what we can estimate the overall revenue for the project is, to see if it actually is cost prohibitive. I would argue, as town manager, with the limited resources we have for our roads, that onus should be borne by the excavator plus developer, because if you do the math, it's, could be upwards of 1.5 million, and a road improvement of 160,000 should be a condition. I don't think 3,500 per acre is adequate at all. The risk with bonds is being able to actually enforce them and chase people down later on. So I think that I would recommend that those conditions be very well spelled out and the board vote on those. And if that means you continue, that portion of it and make a very informed vote, because what you have right now are some suggestions from Jared. They're not all incorporated, and you would have to spell out those actual things, which I don't have a problem working with him and putting them before the board, but I think that would be what you want to vote on. And I don't think, personally, I think there's been a lot that's been talked about tonight,
Right.
and we thank the owner and property owner to be able to explain that, but unless there's some other thing.
Yes.
Does the applicant, with these conditions, is there a negotiation avenue that's opened up with working out these conditions? If there's some condition that you think is appropriate, but ends up being like you said, cost prohibitive, is there some flexibility that these can be negotiated? And that's,
In
I
my,
haven't seen any of the draft conditions yet.
Right.
Either, and
I think
so-
that typically our engineer will make those recommendations to the board. The board can look at those specific recommendations and make additional requests that get put into the applicant, whether the applicant wants to do it or not. But I don't think we have that as a solid piece, and I can see him shaking his head at this point. I think there's been some discussion. We're trying to get the board to understand what they really want, and as far as, in the end, is it always going to be a back and forth? I think if the engineer recommends it to the board and thinks that that is a reasonable request, the board can vote on that, to keep it in or to eliminate it, or to not put the application forward. Just giving all the scenarios to the board.
I'm just thinking of the property owner, I know the applicant's gonna want some say as to, some input.
I'm sure there's gonna be some discussion. I mean, it can't be a one-way, this is it. There's, it's like any other situation, you gotta negotiate it to a happy medium for all parties in order for this to go forward. There is a little glitch here, if I'm correct. You're gone for a month?
I'm gonna be leaving for the military, yes.
Yeah, so this will be put off for a good month, because unless, Selectman Sad comes back. So I have no problem with, extending this special permit hearing for a future date, whatever the board would like to do.
Can I
Yes.
ask Mike a question?
Sure.
When do you leave?
I'm gonna be leaving July 6th.
Can we potentially do it
Before
When are
then?
you coming back?
for?
1 month, you know?
1 month. So I think looking at the way our calendar's set up,
You can do a special meeting if you have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's up to the chairman and whether he calls that.
Yeah,
I just-
we could do
I
that.
don't know, unless it's okay to, with the app, I know we have time guidelines that we're kind of bound by too, so I just want to make sure the applicant's on board with whatever.
I think you're okay.
Because we're getting close to the, I think the 90-day clock with.
By the way, I want to work with the town.
Yeah.
It's working down, so.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
is there enough
Are
time?
you available to
how long would this
participate?
take, Jared, do you
they're
think,
taking
to
electronics
kind of film it, like a week?
Yeah, I think
off
to
the grid.
2 weeks?
refine the language in the special conditions,
Oh,
I'm
God,
thinking that
okay.
within a week or so, that would be enough time.
Yeah, okay.
So we're talking the last week in June, maybe? For Selectman Daniels. All right. Well, why don't we wait until we get the conditions and everything, and we can review them before we actually set a special meeting date? Or
Right,
we, we could, again, postpone this and have it, just have a special meeting,
or otherwise meet the second week in August. If we're going about a month, you think that would be sufficient, so.
You said the 7th.
So-
And you'd be
Yeah.
back here.
He leaves the 6th, he said, and
Right.
then he says he's gone for a month, so if we can try to do it before then,
Right,
or if not, the second week in August.
right.
Did you want that in
Yeah,
motion form?
well, I don't know, do we actually have to set a time, a date? We do? Oh, okay, so, yeah, I guess
Is
so.
that range okay though, if
I think the time period is fine to.
If I specify that time period, is that okay?
Or the date certain,
It's a continued public hearing, so we need a date certain.
right.
Okay. Today is the
Because it
15th.
has to be a date that works for all of us.
The August 17th would be the first meeting that I'm back.
Unless we try to do it before.
Yeah, I am.
It's, it's up in the air.
Problem with next week's a tough week for me. And aren't you going away or something? like
I'm
that?
gone July 6th.
Okay, so you're,
The 17th?
I'll make a motion to continue this to August 17th.
August 17th?
I don't. Do we have a meeting that day already?
Yes.
Does that fit in within the 90 days?
No, I think that's outside your 90.
That's outside.
Yeah.
That's outside your 90.
It doesn't or that does?
It's outside of the 90
It's
days.
outside of the 90 days. And what does that do? Does that mean-
I would have to call and see if they've made any adjustments since they've, ended the declaration for the emergency. If you want to recess the meeting, Mr. Chairman, I can actually, go and find out, because a lot of these things, we had greater latitude because of the declaration of the
Can we,
state of emergency.
Could we?
Can we continue on our agenda while you're gone? Because,
Sure.
I think some of these things don't really, right?
Could we?
All right.
Or
Yep.
could we potentially do June 23rd? It's a Wednesday, but
I can't.
you can.
Nope.
You need 2 weeks ahead of
Yeah,
time.
that's why I say that week is tough for me.
And you can't do a phone, right?
And she can't, and
And I'm probably
She's
getting
gonna,
that.
we'll see if we can
And then he's gone.
find legal counsel for it.
all right, so why don't we, if you don't mind, we'll take a brief recess from this and we'll continue with our agenda, folks, okay? Does that sound good? And what I'd like to go is jump right to the public hearing for National Grid. And I'll read the notice into the record. Under the provisions of general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 166, and any additions or amendments thereto, please be advised that at their meeting of Tuesday, June 15, 2021, at 8 p.m., the Oxbow Board of Selectmen will consider a request to give Mass Electric Company, doing business as National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated, permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Ennis Road, National Grid to install one jointly owned pole and remove one jointly owned pole on Ennis Road, beginning at a point approximately 2,000 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Leicester Street and continually approximately 15 feet in an east direction, moving a pole approximately 10 feet for an underground service to 56 Ennis Road. Also, for permission to lay and maintain underground lateral cables and wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes. The petition can be found on the Board of Selectmen's website, and if any questions, you can contact the Selectmen's office. And this meeting is being held here at 325 Main Street, Oxford, Mass. Second floor conference room. All right, welcome. Sorry to keep you. I know we're a little late, but good. Yeah, good point. Thank you. You're always watching after. I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I make that motion.
Second.
All right, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. Public hearing is open. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oop. Nope.
No,
Wait,
we just opened the public hearing. I really just,
We're getting there.
yeah. You are,
I am Matt Vieira, an engineer.
nice
For
to
National
meet you. And we've kind of received all the paperwork on this and the pictures of where it's basically going. So are there any abutters out there interested in talking about this? Not seeing any. All right, then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make that motion.
Second.
And then I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent, so the public hearing is closed. So board members, what would we like to do?
Do you have any discussion? No? I make a motion that the board give Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid, and Verizon New England Incorporated permission to install one jointly owned pole on Ennis Road.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this request. Any comments from the board? Not seeing any, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. Now you're all set.
I'm good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you for being patient and waiting. Thank you. All right, let's go back to outdoor business permit for Joanne Roosh, which is Gypsy Rose Flowers.
Let me get back to it.
So she wants an outdoor business permit to hold a craft fair with 10 vendors in her parking lot at 250 Main Street. The date requested is June 19th this year from 1 to 5. Board members, entertain a motion.
I make a motion that the board approve the outdoor business permit for Joanna Roche of the Gypsy Rose Flower Shop to hold an outdoor craft fair at 250 Main Street on June 19th from 1 to 5 p.m.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Any comments? Then I would call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. She is approved to have that wonderful craft fair. Good luck. Jared's here, good. In case we have any question. Next item is our DPW lease. So board members, I think we've received an awful lot of information on the leases for this truck. I'd entertain a motion.
All right.
Ready?
I'm ready. Make a motion that a true and very real need exists for the acquisition of the equipment described on Exhibit A of Schedule Number 2, dated May 25th, 2021, of the lease with option to purchase agreement number TE-2282, dated as of April 9th, 2021, between Town of Oxford lessee and All American Investment Group LLC lessor, and that the agreement substantially in the form presented to this meeting is in the best interests of the lessee for the acquisition of such equipment, and the Board of Selectmen hereby approves the entering into of the agreement by the lessee and hereby designates and authorizes the town manager to execute and deliver the agreement on the lessee's behalf with such changes thereto as deemed appropriate, and any related documents, including any payment request form, request funds from the vendor payable account necessary to the consummation of the transaction contemplated by the agreement.
Second.
Read that again.
No.
I think I missed a word. Any other comments? All right, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. We'll sign that agreement. Fantastic. That brings us.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
That student is here. If you wanted to do.
Oh, yeah. Why don't we do that?
Won't take very long.
Yes. All right. We're gonna do the.
Pride Month proclamation.
What's that?
Pride Month proclamation.
Yes. Thank you.
Jake, if you'd like to come forward.
Did you make a? No. Yes.
You can have a seat up front. Last meeting, I asked the board to do a proclamation for Pride Month, June being Pride Month. After the meeting, I thought it would be a good idea to reach out to the local school district and see if there was a member of the school's Gay Straight Alliance that would like to come forward and receive the proclamation.
So I'm gonna ask.
I myself am gay, and I understand how difficult it can be. So I thought it would be a great idea to have a brave individual come forward in front of the town and just, show other Oxford youth to be strong and come out and be comfortable with yourself. So Jay is joining us tonight. Jay is a trans male who just recently graduated from Oxford High School and is going to be going to college here next year at Dartmouth for art. Jay and I had the opportunity to talk prior to the meeting this evening, where he was able to kind of tell me his experience going through the Oxford school. Although we've made great strides since the 70s with the LGBTQ community, it's apparent that there's room for education and more knowledge to be had about the community. So hopefully in the future we can work as a town to be more inclusive. With all that being said, I'll read the proclamation. Whereas during the month of June, Pride is celebrated across many countries throughout the world in recognition of the LGBTQ plus civil rights movement that began over 50 years ago following the Stonewall Uprising in New York City. And whereas the town of Oxford recognizes that our nation was founded upon the principles that all people are created equal and that each person has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas the town of Oxford denounces prejudice and unfair discrimination or harassment based on age, sex, race, national origin, religion, gender identification, or sexual orientation. And whereas the town of Oxford is proud of its diverse culture, where all are welcome to live, work, and play, and every family in all its various forms deserves a place to call home, where they are safe, happy, and supported by friends and neighbors. And whereas the town of Oxford appreciates the value and dignity of each person, recognizes the importance of equality and freedom, and has a strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusivity. Now, therefore, we, the Select Board, and on behalf of the town of Oxford, hereby proclaim the month of June as Pride Month, and we urge all residents to actively promote the principles of equality and liberty. Given under our hands this 15th day of June 2021, signed by the Select Board and the Town Manager. So thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you. All right, so we'll go back to our special permit on earth removal. We'll open that back up again. We found out that the board has all sorts of problems with getting the four of us together before Selectman Daniels leaves. So if the applicant is willing to extend this to our meeting of August 17th, then that's when we would extend this to, and we would, I think we should be able to vote on that night without any further discussion of any great sort. Okay, then that's what our motion will be.
Okay. Can I just ask one question?
Sure you can.
And I think the answer is no, but I'm going to ask it just in case. If we happen to get John back prior to that, are we able to
As long as
change
we
the
can
date
post it,
of the
right?
public hearing if it's posted in enough time? Because then we wouldn't need to invoke the rule of necessity.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think if you've already put a date certain, and you needed to adhere to the date certain.
You can't cancel it and postpone it.
Sure.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just
I
trying to.
understand.
No,
I understand.
that's a good point.
Sorry, thank you.
Yep.
Jennifer Warren Diamond. So it's not about just having that additional member. He hasn't participated in the hearing thus far.
Right.
Okay.
So you need the same individuals that have
Okay.
participated.
And I just wanted to make sure we were looking at all potential. It makes sense, but okay.
That's why we got all these people that can answer our questions.
So that being said, I'd make a motion to continue the hearing until August 17th, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue to the 17th of August. Any more comments?
Thank you
Then
to the
I will,
contractor.
yes, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Sorry, we'll hopefully get it done that night. All right. Thank you very much again for your patience. And all right, so we go to Aquarium biannual update. So next agenda item. And again, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. So I can pull that from.
I know.
While they're pulling that up, next thing. Thank you for having us in for our update, and it's nice to be back in person again. See everyone. So I thank you for that.
Oh,
And,
Paul, we liked you out on your deck.
what's that?
We liked you out on your deck.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Thank you for the communication you've been giving us about the construction.
All
and
right,
stuff.
thank you.
It's
Yeah,
great.
no, that works out good. Just so everybody knows, everybody's on the same
Yeah,
page in case they have any questions.
Because, when you get a call about what's going on,
Yeah,
you have.
no, that works out well. We started doing that last year with the projects, so.
Very good.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
All right. Tim, can you see the Board of Selectmen presentation?
Right, yeah,
Right there. Great.
awesome. All right, so the agenda, I'm Paul Lawson, the operations manager for Millbury and Oxford. John wasn't able to make it tonight. We'll do a quick overview of the water system, our water production for 2021 so far, capital improvements, some highlights in planning, and then some involvement in the community. Next slide, please. The Oxford water system, I know you've probably seen this again, but it's nice just to remember how it's set up with the 4 wells, the 3 North Main Street wells, the Nelson Street well, and then it goes into the 3 tanks, and also the Sutton Ave pump station for Joe Jenny Road, which is another different pressure zone. So the different chemicals that are added there, the sodium hypochlorite, potassium hydroxide, sodium fluoride, and sodium hexametaphosphate. The 41 miles of pipe, 607 valves, 198 hydrants, and 2,628 service lines. Next slide. This is a graph of the water production for this year so far. So the purple line on top is what your system delivery is for your usage. As you can see in the winter months, it's down lower. And as we climb up into June now, you can see some increases. The purple line is the number 3 well, which also you can see how the pumpage increases there as the system delivery goes up. And then the green line is the number 2 well at North Main Street that we run most of the time due to the iron and manganese issues we have there. So that well also backs up the number 3 well. And then as you can see, the other 2 wells don't get used very much. And then there's the registered limit for the town is 286 million gallons a year. As the 5-year average is 231 million per year. And there's 55 million gallons a year available. So that equals like 1,500 homes. Next slide. The capital projects we have going on right now. We're working on the water treatment plant, the North Main Street wells, which we've brought in front of the board before. The design will be 75% design as of 2021, and then on the other slide it'll show should be complete in 2023. And the rehabilitation of Prospect Hill tank, I know Selectman Sad's always a big proponent of the tank, that old tank up there, but that is in process right now. We started in May of 2021. It's going to be painted, new skater improvements for levels, and so there's going to be solar power up there, and putting in a brand new altitude valve and all a big vault and everything. So there's a lot of improvements going on up there right now. And then also the water main replacement, which you had mentioned, the Church Street will be complete probably by the end of this week, maybe beginning of next week. So and the plans are there. I know we've talked with Jared they're going to completely pave the trench for now, and they're going to let it settle over the winter, and then they're going to pave the trench, grind it, and pave it in the spring.
Right.
So next slide. So here's a picture on the left of the tank. They added two manways to go in and out. And as you can see right now, you can see right through it. It's empty. So they're working on it now. And there's a vault that they're replacing. That's the bottom of the vault. They're replacing at the edge of the tank, and that tank is built on completely solid ledge. You wouldn't believe it's nothing but rock up there. Wow. He hammered for 2 weeks. That's Jared's equipment, Jared Mahota's equipment up there.
Really, huh?
So he got the job doing that, which is nice. So that tank will be all sandblasted inside and out and repainted. Next slide. So this is the treatment at North Main Street well. As you know, we're required to address those manganese levels. So we have a corrective action plan which is in place, and up till now we followed it. We've looked at alternative analysis for treatment. We did a pilot study in 2019. The pilot study was approved, and the design is 2021, and construction will start 2022, 2023. Next slide, please. So in the system operations, basically this is the same thing year to year. We do 2 rounds of hydrant maintenance, including the winterization of hydrants, which was done last fall. And we're in the process of testing the hydrants this year right now. A fire department training, I've worked with the chief and the deputy chiefs. We're gonna, once they start painting and doing all the scaffolding and all the stuff up at the tank, we're gonna have kind of like a little training during the day or on a Monday night, so everybody knows there's people up there working in case of an emergency or if they need me to go up there. So then leak detection's been done. We did 1 round in March, and then we're gonna do a second round in 2021. We're targeting twice a year now for leak detection. We had 4 leaks found in the spring, which have been fixed. The valve maintenance, up till now, 30 valves have been maintained. And that goes along with, I skipped the flushing. So the system was flushed. I know you've probably seen notices on that also. We did the whole entire system in the month of May, finished up in June, April, May, and June. So, and then the production meters were also tested in 2021. And then the backflow device testing was continued. We did it in March, and we're gonna do it again in October this year. Even due to the pandemic, we still did it in the spring. And then we did return to work inside homes this March under different safety protocols and stuff. So that's worked out. So we're back to full swing now, basically. Next slide, please. And excuse me. Donations this year, just to hit on a couple of them, the Clara Barton Golf Tournament, which will be this fall. The Oxford Little League we sponsored. There's a picture there with the Aquarium sign hanging on the fence. And also we did some donations to the Oxford Food Pantry. Also member of the Lions Club and the OBA. And the good thing is our customer advisory board meetings will be back in person in the fall. So it'll be nice to get back to that again. So that's pretty much what I have. Thank you. Any questions?
Board members?
And also,
you answered them along the way. So.
What's that?
I said you answered them along the way. I was going to
Okay, no, it's good. And then, like I said, if anybody's interested in a site visit for the tank or whatever, please reach out to myself or Fran. I'd be more than glad to meet you up there and walk you up there. It's pretty interesting what's going on there right now.
That guy was retired. You know?
He is. He's supposed to be. All right. Thank you very much.
Like I said, thank you very much. Communication is awesome.
Also on that part too, I want to thank Jared for working with us very well on Church Street with the main project. The police department, fire department, and DPW all work together great.
That's great.
So
Good.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
might, on my manager's report, I am going to mention that we had gotten notice that Aquarium was going to be going through a merger. And with New England
New
Service
England
Company,
Water Services, yes.
Mountain
Yep.
Water Systems,
Yep.
and Colonial Water, and that there's time for public commentary. So just so that you know, we're going to mention that later. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that expansion of your at all.
Okay, yeah, no, right now it's still in the planning stages, and they still have to go through the application process, so really there's not much other than, there will be there's small water systems, and one in Dover and one in Plymouth, so there's really not much, I don't know that much about it at this point, because they haven't given us any, they haven't got the ball rolling that far yet.
Well, I figured I would mention you, save me my time later.
But it'll make, no, thank you. It will probably increase the size of the Massachusetts operations, which will be good for all the towns together, so.
Right.
Yeah, it said no premium increase on the rate, so that's awesome.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
All right,
thank you very much. Thanks, Fran. Nice to see you. All right, next item on our agenda is 40B presentation submitted by MDPH Zane Place, so 580 Main Street, and Ansari Builders. Wow. Again, thank you for your patience. It's long discussion.
doing the presentation. I'm just gonna sit here and listen.
You're gonna sit there and look pretty. Good idea.
Would you like some hard copies of plans of the building?
Actually, I think
I think we have some.
Do we have them here? I think they're in our packet.
We have the building, I think, right?
I got something a little bit bigger. That's the site plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can give you the actual building itself.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
Great.
great. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know where.
It should have been right under the thank you, thank you. Thank you, sir.
I saw
Sort
it.
of context it matches the.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I can look on. Sorry. You need to.
Do you need any introduction before they get on with it, or is it good?
Yeah, that'd be nice to know who to and
My name is Farouk Ansari. I'll be the one that will be working on this project. It's my land there. And I'm very familiar with Oxford and the people that work here. I've worked here for many, many, many years. One of the projects we built here was off of Sutton Road there, Oxford Crossing and Plymouth Village, years and years ago. So I go back, way back. So now I'm here with the 40B. And I have with me two people. One is the land design engineer who is going to give you the presentation of where and how it's going to be laid out. And I also brought with me Robert Shaw, who is the architect that will present what we are proposing in the way of the building. The way the process works is that we give you a presentation. If you feel comfortable to approve it, we get the approval, and then we start working with the DHCD, which is the Department of Housing and Community Development. And then after that, once they approve it, then we circle back to the ZBA here and go in front of them. That's where all the details will come out, and that's where it ends. So this is basically just a friendly way of approaching you and maybe getting your blessings on it. So thank you. Having said that, I'll ask Mike Scott to give a presentation.
All right, good evening. My name is, Mike Scott. I'm an engineer at Land Design Collaborative. We're in Westboro, Mass. And what you're looking at here is just the site itself. There's a survey done by Jarvis Engineering and Survey, and it shows a 2.7 acre piece of land. Main Street's on the left side of the sheet. Old Worcester Road is up here to the left. Beverly Street runs behind it. And as Mr. Ansari mentioned, Plymouth Village is just off to the right. So if you go to the next sheet, this will show, so the same orientation, Main Street running on the left side of the sheet, Old Worcester Road running up to the left. Same 2.7 acres. You can see the Plymouth Village Plantation Drive here and some of the homes that are existing. This is also a business on Main Street. The residence at the corner of Old Worcester Road and Main Street. This is the Greenbrier Recreation Area up in this location. So the proposal is to create a single point of access, one 3-story building, 42 units with parking and a driveway around the building. The tables on the plan just demonstrate how the project would comply with zoning through the special permitting process and where the non-conforming or non-compliant aspects of the project as it relates to the zoning. So there are a handful of aspects of this site and this project that do exceed what would be allowed by zoning, namely the density. By right, there's about a 7-unit project on this property. Through the special permitting process in the R2 district, that could be 21 to 22 units. There's a multiplier. So that would be townhome style development. That was reviewed with a couple staff folks here in town going back, I think, to probably January or maybe even last fall. Last fall. Excuse me. And at that time, Mr. Ansari determined really that's kind of not economically viable. The formula would be that the increase in units, the bonus density, 50% of that would become affordable to the town. So the 21 units would yield roughly somewhere around 7 to 8 affordable units. And that just becomes, that's a third of the whole build out, and that becomes economically infeasible. So we then looked at flat style or apartment style units. So this is, and Mr. Shaw can go through the building, but basically 3 floors, 14 units a floor in round numbers. And that if it'd be 25% of this, so a minimum 10 or 11 units would become affordable to the town. If this becomes an apartment building, the town can get credit for 100% of those 42 units. So it's a far denser, but also far richer in terms of the affordable aspect, if you will. The property itself is pretty much all wooded. There's no wetlands. The only, say, oddball aspect of this project or property is that the Army Corps' perpetual easement that's related to the dam runs sort of across the property, and it's a faint gray line, but it's right here. So the Army Corps will not allow habitable structures to be constructed within the limit of that easement. We've had a few meetings with the Army Corps, and I worked with them on another site farther south on Main Street several years back. They can allow construction outside their easement, and they can't allow filling within the easement, provided that filling is mitigated. So if you go to the next sheet, this will show the topography and more detail on the plan. This shows that the property would be connected to water and sewer. There would be a stormwater management system. Again, the single point of access. There would be a sidewalk out to the existing sidewalk on Main Street, so the residents would have a means to access the public street. And then there's a flashing signed crosswalk at Greenbrier up just on the other side of Old Worcester Road. But this proposed tree line shows that the front part of the site would remain wooded from the street to this area, and then this portion of the site would be excavated in excess than would be necessary for stormwater or to build the project, but that would offset the filling in the flood area. We've run volumetric calculations for the development, and we actually got a preliminary letter from the Corps, again going back to last fall or maybe early this year, for the earlier version, the different design, but same concept, filling and then replacing and removing fill to compensate. And this would actually result in a greater amount of flood storage on the site nominally, but it does increase the flood storage. And it meets, with the exception of density, this layout essentially could be permitted through the current bylaw. It's just that the allowable, if you will, by special permit just doesn't yield the density that Mr. Ansari is looking for. Again, single point access on Main Street, Route 12. I met with Mass DOT years ago on a property just down the street for a far greater density. There's great sight lines here. There's no major traffic volume concerns. This is a fairly small project to Mass DOT, even if it's substantial in the community. So I don't foresee any kind of significant mitigation or any kind of concerns on their end. It doesn't require any other state or local permits. It would require an earth removal permit, but no conservation. I'm sure there'd be sewer and water connections. Generally the site, once you get into the site's fairly flat, so this isn't a real challenging piece of topography. There's a retaining wall shown at the back right corner, the northern corner, and that is in an effort to retain a buffer to the neighbors on Beverly Street. So we tried to condense the development to the south. And you can see contextually it sits next to Plymouth Village. I did provide a couple aerial views of this, one at the same scale, and then one at, so this is the same scale. So what you see here, the building would be in brown, and you can see the paved driveway running around it. You can see the homes or the existing buildings at Plymouth Village to the right, and the surrounding residences on Old Worcester, and then Beverly to the north. And again, there's a business just down here to the south of the project. The next view is just, this is 30 scale, the next view is 80. So again, to sort of get a sense of scale and magnitude, it's building wise is maybe twice, almost 3 times the size of the buildings at Plymouth Village, but the overall footprint's really tiny compared to that development. And again, it's compact. It's fairly contained. Keep a wooded buffer to the south and to the west, where you would see it from Main Street. There is a loop driveway. It would afford full emergency access, doors on all 4 sides of the building. And again, Mr. Shaw can elaborate on that. But we think that this is while it's dense and while it's in terms of units per acre, it's still only a tiny fraction, of the entire site, and we've tried to keep it away from the residential, single-family residences and tuck it closer to the multifamily. I guess lastly, just on the way in, it would actually be a bridge structure or a culvert structure, again, to minimize the amount of flood filling. So the driveway being as far to the south as possible keeps it a greater distance from the intersection at Old Worcester, puts the driveway closer to the commercial driveway that's to the south, and also minimizes the flood, and also makes the shortest distance in, allowing that greatest amount of wooded buffer to remain. Right, yeah, and again, as Farouk was saying, we did meet with the Army Corps at least once. I think we had 2 calls with them, yeah, and some correspondence back and forth. And ultimately, what we would do with them is we would provide when we got to the ZBA stage, we would provide all the backup volumetric calculations, which would be filed with the town, concurrently, just to demonstrate that even though that upper would be the northwest corner of the property and where the driveway enters off of Main Street, while there would be fill in that location, it would be a greater volume post-construction on the site than there is now. So I'll let Mr. Shaw.
I'm Bob Shaw. I'm the project architect for Zane Place. I was given the site plan to start with, the rectangle to start designing the building. And what you see before you is what we've come up with as a preliminary design, schematic design at this point. We have basically 5 floors in the building, a basement, and four floors up above. Breakdown would be, we have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units, and we have a 3 bedroom unit which is accessible, and a 1 bedroom unit which is accessible, and that will be on the first floor. So for a total of 42 units. Look at our sheet A1. This is our basement and first floor plans at this point. Basement is basically a community space and tenant storage. We do have an elevator. We have 3 stairwells for egress. And on the first floor, we have an entry with a manager space, reception desk. We're be able to control access to the building for the tenants. The first floor, does contain the accessible units, and we do have a community room there. And we have typical floors above that on sheet A2. And basically everything stacks up, so there'll be economy in doing that. The building itself is a 5A construction, which is wood, and 5A as opposed to 5B. 5A, the bearing walls are 1 hour rated, exterior walls are 1 hour rated. And the stairwells, we plan on having a concrete block, and then those would be a 2 hour rated enclosure. And we are proposing the exterior to be what they call an EFIS system, which is exterior finish and insulating system. Right now, the state building code requires that the exterior of a building have a continuous rigid insulation around the outside. So that basically takes care of that, and plus you put the finish on top of it. So it's basically kind of a stucco finish at what you see on the front west elevation that you see on sheet A2. Each unit we are assuming to be at this point have a heat pump system. Everything's all electric, and the air conditioning, heating off that heat pump system that you see in the little closet on the outside wall. It says HVAC. So each unit will have its own unit. Windows will conform to egress requirements according to the state building code. They'd all have, screens on them. And they'll all meet egress requirements. So sheet A3 is the other exterior elevations that we are proposing. We have a flat roof. Not sure whether there'll be any equipment up on the roof. Everything should be contained within the apartments for HVAC. So that should leave the roof free. Maybe solar panels could go up there one day, but at this point, we don't have any plans for the roof and what it's going to be used for. That's pretty much the building in a nutshell.
Basically like an apartment complex. I mean, like a hotel, kind of almost, really, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really lend itself to like clapboards or vinyl siding.
Yeah,
that sort of
but
thing.
it's
just too big for that. It's not the right scale. So,
Yep.
just making it look like that, seemed to be the right approach.
I would never think you could fit a complex like that in that area. I drive by it every day, and
If this goes through, Oxbow will have a very nice, apartments to rent.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed when I started doing this was, there's nothing available in Oxford to rent, it's decent quality. Thanks, and this would lend itself to that.
All right. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we do have our Director of Planning and Economic Development, if he wants to explain to the board where we're at this process so that you can
Yeah.
make that next determination.
That'd be a great
if,
idea.
Mr.
Yes.
Ansari would just let Tony Sousa, who happens to be here, to try to explain what the next step will be for the board.
You're not asking me to do that, right? Or is it?
No. I was going to say we can have our Director of Planning and Economic Development just explain to the board. He held a recent 40B workshop, which I know you were on.
I was on the Zoom.
Yes, you were. And I think it would be helpful, not all the board members were there, but it might be helpful now to kind of explain that to the board.
Sure, and good evening, everyone. I'm Tony Sousa, Director of Planning and Economic Development, and it is a pleasure to be here in person this time. And thank you, Madam Town Manager. We did do as you may recall, the 40B workshop to talk about just a general broad overview of process. And I would like to highlight where we are with respect to process as it relates again to this project, as Mr. Ansari mentioned early in the beginning of this presentation. The applicant will be making an application to the state for a project eligibility letter. And as part of that application does require a sign-off from this board, if the board sees fit. By process, the application will then go to DHCD, which is the state agency that will handle these applications, right? There'll be an opportunity after. There'll be a review from DHCD, there'll be appraisal done and so on, and there will be an opportunity for this board and other boards to provide comment back to DHCD before they issue the project eligibility letter. What the letter does, from our perspective, that is the ticket, if you will. You may recall in the workshop, that is the ticket that allows the applicant then to come before the ZBA for that comprehensive permit. Whereas the town is not at its 10% of affordable housing as mandated by the state, applicants have the opportunity to make such a petition to the state, to DHCD, seeking a comprehensive permit through ZBA. ZBA will seek comment as well. So there's some checkpoints here, if you will. But ZBA will also seek comment from various boards, staff, and through that process, should a permit be issued, there may be, I would anticipate, conditions. Certainly be peer review, I would anticipate. And through that process, when the permit is issued, if it is issued by ZBA, then applicant will also move forth with their application, with the process through DHCD, housing lottery,
and other requirements in that process. As we move forward, there will, again, as I said, be opportunity for further comment, and would certainly be more than happy to provide this board, and likewise, as I mentioned to ZBA as well, opportunity to provide, from staff level, additional comments also. This is very early concept stage, as I like to say, and certainly the building, the aspects of layout design will be further discussed as well. We did have a technical review meeting. Actually, there was one prior to I coming on board as well. Certainly a different scope of project, but we did have one relatively, I want to say back in January, perhaps. Yeah. And early on with staff as well, with DPW, with fire, police, and our building commissioner and others too. Again, early stage. There'll be more to come through this, but I just want to highlight some of the elements of where we are with process. Again, one of the incentives, fortunately, is whereas, as it was mentioned, this is 42 units of rental apartments, of which approximately 10 units so will be deemed affordable by the state's definition. We will have an opportunity to capture all 42 units under our SHI, our subsidized housing inventory. You see we're at 7.3%. And once when we get towards our 10% requirement, we'll have further opportunity, further discretion, if you will, to review these petitions, these 40B applications in the future. Whereas we're not there, there's a little bit more process, if you will, a latitude granted to developers, but also more process with DHCD and oversight. There is, and as again, I'll leave it at that, but we are early on in this stage, and I'm certainly happy to answer any other questions. But I just wanted to, again, give some perspective to this application, but also kind of where we are as a town. And it will be incremental progress as we move forward. Again, ultimately, from my bubble, is to get us towards that 10%, so that way the town will have more flexibility, more say, more opportunity to influence, if you will, to shape these projects. Should a ZBA, for example, deny an application, then the applicant, whereas we're not at our 10%, applicant could certainly go forward to the state, and which has been done, and routinely the state will side with the respected applicants, whereas again communities like ours, where we're not at that 10% requirement. So this is an important step. This what's called a LIP application is helpful for us to get there towards that 10%, and again, there will be opportunity for further comment. So for tonight, this is a presentation to provide you with information, and certainly as the board wishes, the applicant will be seeking some type of sign-off from the board as the board sees fit. So,
all right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Board members, yes, go ahead.
Can I just, before
Yes.
you run away, Tony, can I just ask you a question? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly.
Sure.
Should we give this sign off tonight? If I'm understanding you correctly, we would have a time later down the road to express specific concerns we may have about the project prior to the project coming to fruition. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And just to clarify, so when DHCD receives the completed application, and although I don't believe you have a draft of the application at this time before you, but when a draft comes before you, just to review, to verify, and I'd be happy to assist in that as well. DHCD will then allow the municipality 30 days for additional comments. And following that, DHCD will do their appraisal, do a site visit with the applicant to walk through, and then at some point thereafter, that project eligibility letter would be issued, may be issued.
Okay.
Then the applicant will have that opportunity to come back to ZBA and go through that comprehensive permit process.
Okay.
So I see it as kind of two checkpoints, if you will, in this process. One, that 30-day period I just talked about, and also when it comes before the ZBA.
Okay, so then I'll withhold my comments and go forward. Thank you.
Selectman Levine.
Hi, Mr. Souza, how are you? Very quickly, just because this process is a little bit different because it's a 40B, going back to that 30-day of commentary, is there public notice made in regards to that? Meaning, is there an obligation that we need to publish that or print that or anything along, like, I guess my question is, how do people know that the 30-day window has started for commentary?
Sure. Frankly, I will verify with DHCD how they handle that.
Oh, sure.
In fairness, and I'd be happy to follow up. I also, through you, Mr. Chairman, should the applicant, as they are familiar with the process, they may also be able to share some light on that.
Oh, sure.
I do appreciate Tony Sousa's work in this. He's educated the board, educated me, the whole 9 yards, and he's himself new to the town. And I do thank you. I want to take this opportunity to thank you. You have good control over the whole thing. Let's say you approve this today. All I have to do then is fill out the application, attach that letter, and all the plans, preliminary plans, and send it to DHCD. They will do their review. And if they feel that the site is in fact eligible for this kind of a project, they will issue a site eligibility letter like Tony articulated. Once that letter is in my hand, then I have the now ticket, like you said, to take the next step. And then the 30-day comment period is basically to get, if you have any comments on their site eligibility letter, you would know that. Now, exactly what date that starts, I'm not very clear on it, but I think it's the day they issue the letter and send you the notice that they did that. You would be in the loop. And once that happens, then I develop all the final plans. There's a lot of work left here to do, and then go in front of the ZBA. It's basically going in front of the planning board, but in this case, it's the ZBA. And they will review everything, have hearings, whatever they do, and then at the end, when everything is satisfied and complete, they'll approve the project and issue what they call the comprehensive permit. Once I get that in my hand, then I have to go get a regulatory agreement from the DHCD. That regulatory agreement will bind me to offer those 10 units at all times, 25%, to they call the median income. They don't want to call it low income. You can't say that. It's median income. And they will then have a lottery and decide who those people are. I have zero control over that. It's strictly based on their guidelines, and the rental limits are also set by the state on those 10 units. The rest of them are market units. So that's basically how the process works.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, sure. So what would we like to do? I mean, I don't see a reason, personally, I don't see a reason or, just why we wouldn't approve, say, okay, all they need is our approvals to send their letter, right? So.
Right, that's all we're approving tonight.
Yeah,
is
that's
the
it,
letter.
Can I say something?
Butter, can I say something?
Sure, I'll allow it.
My name is Chris Lance. I live at 8 Beverly Street.
Going to show the house, but it's that little blur right in the middle up there.
Yep,
Is this, 4 stories? Is that what something? 4.
yeah.
They may say it's not that big in compared to everything, but see Plymouth Village to the right there, those are very large buildings. This thing is 200 by 70. And it's not meeting a lot of zoning things. And when that thing's gonna be 4-story high, and I don't know what you say about the traffic. Sunday morning, I walk my dog across Route 12. Sunday morning's not much traffic. There's a lot of traffic that goes by there with all the truck traffic from 395 comes up there. Trying not to sound NIMBY-like, I'm really not. But that is gonna be a monstrosity when that is complete. 4 stories, 200 by 70 with all parking. And they're gonna be rentals. Now, we have a nice residential neighborhood. I'm being NIMBY again. It's a nice residential, residents
Yeah.
across the street, all residents. These are gonna be rentals. We all know if you rent, you don't take care of the property like you do if you own. And that is gonna be right in my grill right there. And we don't even know who's gonna move in there. And this is a nice little town. I've been here for 30 years, I love it. And I just saw this, if it was something smaller or maybe somebody who owned it, great. But this, when you drive by that, when that's complete, you're gonna know it's there. And there's 63 parking spots. It's gonna, I take it you've done a traffic study. I assume you've done that. So, but it's not gonna be as pretty as they make it out to be. It's gonna be huge. 200 by 70, 4 stories in a residential area.
I mean,
And with special permits and all kinds of things on top of that. That flood elevation, I know that with the Corps of Engineers, that I've dealt with them before. I was a surveyor for many years, but they wouldn't let you build in it. Usually they didn't let you work in it, but I guess they're gonna let them work in that area. I think it's a 504 plane there.
All right. Yep.
Just want to express a couple concerns.
Yep, thank you very much. Yep. It's a tough process of 40B development, and you know, state requires a certain amount for the town, and you know, puts us in a tough position. All we're doing tonight is saying to this individual he can apply to the state, and that's all we're doing. And the state takes it from there, and eventually it'll come back. You'll have your time where you can go to the zoning board meetings, express your concerns, and that's how it goes. So again, I see no reason personally, but it's all up to the board what you'd like to do with this situation.
Okay. I mean, given the understanding that we will have open dialogue and the abilities to potentially put special conditions and whatnot on later on down the line, at this point, I'd be comfortable making a motion that the board vote to invite Ansari Builders to a future meeting of the Board of Selectmen to review the completed local initiative program application for comprehensive permit projects, and after review, consider signing off of said application and providing a letter of commitment for the project. Is that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to invite them back at a future meeting where we'll sign off with the application. Any other comments?
Just quick question. I think this is probably more for Tony. In the event that we didn't vote this letter through tonight, what's the next step for Ansari Builders?
So with respect to the application itself, and it certainly is important to have a completed application before signing. With respect to the PEL, and you may recall Attorney Whitten discussing this, it is rare that DHCD would reject an application, although it's still a very important process. And again, you may even recall one of his first slides was with respect to this board's say, if you will. And where that comes in is certainly application needs to be submitted. Should there not be signature, unfortunately, DHCD has still reviewed them favorably, if you will. And I only say unfortunately because, once again, it is just the circumstances that we're under. When that application comes, or when, yes, that application comes back, that 30-day window, certainly this board will have an opportunity to comment. Although I will note, and I'd be happy to follow up to ensure exactly how that notice is done through DHCD as well. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Just wanted to share with you that.
All right. So we have a motion to continue this basically at a later date where we'll have the actual application letter in our possession, correct? Is that what? Okay. Any other comments? Call for a vote?
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. It's 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. So once we get that letter all set up, then you can come before us again, okay? Great.
Yes. I just wanted to make one more comment here before I leave.
Sure.
There are 2 ways of doing this project. I've done many of them. One is the friendly way, one is the unfriendly way. I chose to do the friendly way, trying to get your blessings first, so that it's all prim and proper.
Right.
So that's what Tony was alluding to, because
I
thank you.
Understand. I understand completely. So
Thank you.
yes, thank you. All right. much. Is that it? Because I don't have anything else. Are we up to you?
No.
Oh, no, we have a lot more.
Sheet
Oh,
here.
well, then I don't
We're only
have
on I.
it. I don't have.
Here, you can have mine.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Oh, Lord. All right. Next item on the agenda is the police collective bargaining agreement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, before you, you have a draft of the collective bargaining agreement that is with the Oxford Police Officers Association. It is a 3-year agreement. The union members have already voted to approve the agreement. The agreement has gone through legal counsel for final review. You have a letter also in support of the agreement from our police chief. This is the first time a police chief has been invited to the negotiation process. I will say that the two representatives for the Policemen's Association, I think will tell you was a very fruitful, thoughtful negotiation. One of the things that I think they all recognized is that the last contract had done a really, I think, fair market rate adjustment to officers' pay. And so this increase is looking for over the 3 years, a 1%, 2%, and 2%. The major pieces of it that I think were really important were mutually embraced by both sides. They dealt with things that are important to officers, from details to firearm proficiency and rewarding that, to things that I think were mutually going to be beneficial for keeping the full complement of our police department, as well as addressing a few things, things like if you're going to allow a sergeant to get to that particular rank, that they would go straight and not have any steps. That was important to them. It was important to us to try to acknowledge that you shouldn't have to go through a number of steps if you're going to be promoted to sergeant. It's things like that. So I would ask the board to approve with their signature, knowing that it has already received a vote of approval for the union membership, our legal counsel, and the chief and the manager.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion that the board approve the collective bargaining agreement for the Oxford Police Association fiscal year 22 to 24, subject to the final approval and any technical changes by legal counsel. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Comments, questions? Call for a vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. You will sign that. Thank you. Next thing is discussion about public meetings, hybrid versus in person.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to bring the board full circle on the expiration of the declaration of emergency. Because of the way that the vote had taken place with the board about hybrid meetings in the past, the fact that the last time you guys voted to keep hybrid until the declaration had gone to the point where it did today, which was it was revoked. We now are back to normal, where we have in-person meetings. I think that the discussion in your last realm was whether you wanted to continue potentially doing hybrid going forward. There's a lot of things to consider for that. Mainly, it does have implications by the way that you would try to do that. I know we've had some technical difficulties doing that, and it's not just about the Board of Selectmen, it's about all of the boards, whether it's a library trustee meeting, and we can't provide that hybrid like we're doing tonight on a regular basis because of the type of work that it takes to put together. Having said that, there are also some indications that if the board were to continue to try to do that, you'd have to specify, which boards and committees or all boards and committees, and then on top of that, if something malfunctions, like we were having technical difficulties, you have to put in provisos for language, because then the town is on on the hook that if something can't take place, then you can't have the meeting at all. Like if something, like when we were having trouble with the volume, we would have had to cancel the entire meeting and not continue with it because we couldn't allow them to do that. I know our town clerk was here too, if there were any questions related to that, but my recommendation is we go back to the way we were handling it. Obviously, the board was sensitive to the issue of postings related to public hearings, and we knew that we had to continue that. But I think we've gotten beyond that now, and any requests going forward that have come through the clerk's office because of the expiration for the declaration today, they knew that they had to actually do it the same way we used to. So.
Entertain a motion or discussion or whatever you want to do.
Can I ask a question?
Sure you can, yeah.
Well, I guess
Why
I
do you
just
ask
asked
me
one.
if you can
I
ask
know,
a
I
question?
just asked one. This doesn't trump our policy about
No.
should we have
A remote.
a remote need for emergency purposes, correct?
No,
This is
yeah, our
specific
policy.
to regularly scheduled meetings, non-emergent issues? Okay.
Right, so the policy that we have for remote participation remains intact.
Okay.
And there are very specific things that have to occur for
Right.
that. So, yeah, that doesn't change,
okay.
not at all.
I wanted to make
This
sure
is
this
really
didn't have
about
any
this
influence on
broad
that.
thing of trying to do the hybrid model. It wasn't hybrid before. It was easier, actually, when it was just all Zoom, because you were just dealing with the one technology. Now we're dealing with multiple technology bases. So that makes it more difficult. And to try to do that for every single public meeting, whether it's the Conservation Commission, it just won't be feasible for us to do that.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion that we
Go back
take
to
it back to the original what it was. How's that?
Pre-pandemic
How you want to?
I would make a motion that we go back to in-person meetings.
Second.
That sounds good. Yeah, any more discussion? Call for roll.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent.
Welcome
Back
back.
to regular meetings. That sounds great. Yes. Let's go to French River Lease renewal.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, before you have the French River Educational Center, which is a property that gets leased by the town at 672 Main Street, and it's been doing that for many years. The school department typically has the benefit of that lease, but of course, because it's actual real estate, it comes through this board. They're looking to renew their lease for another 12-month period, beginning July 1st, 2021. And of course, that provides them with some surety that they can function as a nonprofit entity there as well.
All right, entertain a motion.
Does this require 4, or is it 3 sufficient?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I need to abstain from this one.
Oh, okay.
I make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the building lease agreement between the town of Oxon and the French River Educational Center for July 1st of this year to June 30th of next year. I will call for a vote.
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That's 3 in the favor, 1 abstention, and 1 absent. We can sign that lease. Great. So that leads us right into the middle school building vote.
Yes, tonight before you have very long motions to have to either read or is printed in the meeting packet, 1 or 2, the way you want to do it. But it's very specific. You don't have as many of them the last time we had for every single school building project. We're being invited once again for the middle school potential Massachusetts School Building Authority project. So this is the statement of interest. In order for the school to apply, they need to have an actual official vote, which is spelled out there. I would encourage the board to support the superintendent and the school district's attempt once again. We did have a long meeting with them after submitting our proposal last year, and we were invited to articulate more specifically what the needs were, and they focused now in on the middle school infrastructural needs. And that's what's before you tonight.
Entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion Statement. We have convened in an open meeting today, Tuesday, June 15th, 2021, prior to the statement of interest submission closing date, as the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Oxford, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, vote to authorize the interim superintendent of schools to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated June 9th, 2021, for the Oxford Middle School located at 497 Main Street, Oxford, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority category for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Under priority number 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. The building opened in the 1960s as a high school, but the overall building footprint, including but not limited to classroom spaces and configuration, science labs, locker rooms, and breakout rooms, do not support a 21st century learning model for a middle school with respect to student-centered learning, social emotional well-being, student engagement, teacher teaming, collaborative, hands-on learning, and active instruction. We hereby further specifically acknowledge that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the Town of Oxford Public School District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Second.
You sure?
I think so.
Don't make me say it again.
Second the whole thing.
You want me to second the whole thing?
All right, no comments?
Oh, no.
Oh, you have a comment? Oh, great, then.
Great,
go
let's
right.
roll it, right? Let's get it done. Are they thinking about building a new school?
They can think about that as any number of people may have different ideas, but this again is the statement of interest for the school building authority to figure out what the town needs. So even if there are determinations made within the district, the actual school building authority does that full analysis, will come back with what it recommends should take place. So this is like the first step again of reapplying so that we can get more definitive ideas. Last time we got all the way to the point where then they still didn't include us in the next, steps of the process. So I think by focusing on the middle school, it may be what they're trying to do is figure out what are the next, steps in the process.
Is this costing us money to apply to this?
No,
Okay.
not for the statement of interest filing. They're hoping to get money eventually to be able to get to those more definitive ideas about what would be necessary.
Thank you.
But that would come, if I may, that would come from the state. It's probably not.
Yes.
All right.
So this is just letting them take a look.
This is like applying for funding to actually determine what the district might need for a particular school. No different than what we did last year, only now it's focused, there's a little bit more understanding about what would be necessary in a scope, I think, and then the school building authority will meet with the district and go through the whole motions again.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure, yeah. Any other questions? Call for a vote.
Yes.
You want to go next?
Yes.
All right, I'll say yes.
And I'll say yes, that's 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. They can make their application. All right, so we go to Cultural Council appointments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there are two before you, Dana Esposito of 82 Dana Road, and Rebecca Ide of 8 Hemlock Street. We were down on the number of cultural council appointments. I have done some reaching out. Dana should have been included in the last go around for appointments. Somebody who has a very expressed interest in cultural arts and also design. And Rebecca Ide also contacted my office, interested. And we have money from the state that we cannot actually distribute without having a full complement to the Cultural Council, which we now do have, but this will add to it so that we can assure that we can have our meetings with a quorum and not bypass on money. We have a lot of great people trying to do some events in town, and this will be able to do that. So I hope we can approve them this evening.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board make the following appointments to the Cultural Council: Dana M. Esposito of 82 Dana Road, Oxford, and Rebecca L. Ide of 8 Hemlock Street, Oxford. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. They are approved, and we thank them very much for volunteering. Okay, so we go to surplus request by the town clerk. We have a non-working IBM typewriter. So, board members, what would you like to do?
Is it an IBM or an IMB?
Oh, mine says IBM.
Well, the motion's for IMB. So I just wanted to, which one? IBM, okay. I'd make a motion that the board vote to approve the request by Michelle Jenkins to surplus the non-working IBM typewriter as listed in her email of June 8th, 2021. Second.
Any comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. It's too bad. We couldn't use that typewriter. Oh, so done. All right, request to use bandstand by the Women's Club. Entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion that the board vote to approve the request by the Oxford Women's Club to use the bandstand to host a concert on July 25th, 2021 from 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Second.
We have a motion to approve. Any comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. They are approved. Thank you. Now we go to town manager's report, and thank you so much for, I didn't have that paper.
Thank you. First on the town manager's report is just to let the board know that I had the pleasure and the honor to moderate and help organize a legislative affairs forum that included our United States Congressman Jim McGovern and also the chairman of the United States Congress Ways and Means Committee, Richard Neal. They were asked by myself and also the town manager of the town of Shrewsbury to help assist municipal leaders in understanding the federal economic recovery efforts. It was a very well-attended forum, and we got to actually have a lot of insight also from 2 members of the Administration and Finance Division of the Executive Office for Economic Affairs. And I can tell you that based on that forum that we had, it was an impetus for a lot of us to know what the very critical steps are for actually accepting money that will come from the U.S. Treasury directly through the state to the town. And that should be here within 30 days. And then we'll have a different discussion about what we can actually use that for going forward. The next item, I know that we still have our DPW director here. Ever since he's come on board, he knows that I'm very serious about applying for grants. And there are 2 on here, and we'll take you so that you can go home. It's his dad's birthday. I want to say thank you for coming in, but we have great news. There are 2 projects, Jared, if you want to come forward, that we've been able to work on. Our previous director had also applied for a grant for the McKinstry Pond Dam, and I wanted to say that I told Jared 3rd time would be a charm. Prior to applying, we made a lot of direct contacts. I had a lot of discussions with the head of the program, talked about the need to get this dam done. Jared was able to find out there were 2 possibilities for grant applications. One had to do with the actual design and engineering. We thought we were further along in the process. Jared was able to highlight to me that we should apply for that, and we threw also an application in for full funding for the construction of it. But I'll let you talk about that and what we were able to accomplish, and I'm proud to say that we'll be receiving the amount of $55,275 to complete the design and engineering, and we've been given a really good thumbs up, hopefully for next year for construction funding as well. Go ahead, Jared.
That's right. Thank you, Madam Manager. So Madam Manager, always willing to hold our feet to the fire here for any and all grant opportunities, but we're very eager to do so, and very pleased with the result for the award that was just made from the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs in the amount of $55,000 in some odd dollars. That's represents 75% of the remaining fee for engineering and design and planning. That's the maximum award that this program offers. And this would be to see through the civil engineering design for the dam as well as the structural design of the dam, and also to secure any and all permits, which we had applied, as Madam Manager had mentioned, we'd applied for both the planning and design grant and the construction grant. We've been advised by the director of the program that it was a matter of timing for us, and considering that we hadn't undergone the permit application process quite yet, that by the time, with the long lead time associated with those permit reviews, it just wouldn't work out for the town to receive the construction funding this round, although we had a very strong application from what I've been told, which is encouraging. So we're hopeful that with this money, we'll see through the design, the rest of the planning, we'll submit those permit applications, and then by next round, we'll be in a much better footing for that potential for the construction funding. And then we could finally see this important infrastructure improvement through at that point. So.
Yeah, and this is one of, we are talking about dams all the time. We talked about Lowe's Pond Dam. We've got the Bartlett Pond Dam, which I'm going to just touch on after we finish with the next grant talk. But we have significant hazard dams in this town. Those are just 3 between the ones that we've talked about. And so if we can address at least 2 of them, the Lowe's Pond and McKinstry, within the next 48 months, let's just say, that would be really significant for this town. We're talking about multi-million-dollar projects. So hopefully, with your great engineering expertise, we'll get that done. I asked Jared to also come here right in the middle of bringing him on board. I had reached out to him, and I wanted to do something that this town hadn't done before, and that was to apply for a DCR Urban and Community Forestry Challenge Grant. We take great pride in the fact that we have somebody who is a full-time tree warden who's gone on for continuing education, which was a milestone. And as you know, this board and the Finance Committee supported a major initiative last fall to put capital money for all of the dead and dying trees that are along our roads, mainly that had succumbed to the gypsy moth infestation. So these are not huge monetary grants, but they mean a lot to a community that has not yet tapped into how to plan your streetscapes, which is very important to our master plan. So we applied for a Trees for Trees grant application. It was fun working with Wayne Burlock, our tree warden, to get the nitty-gritty of the fact that we do have hazard trees like hazard dams, and he has a very accurate log of priority 1, 2, and 3 hazard trees. And so when the state was looking to actually put together the notice for what they would be looking for different projects, we created what we're going to call the Trees for Trees program. We're going to make a commitment in this town as a management priority going forward, just like we did with taking trees down, that when we take trees down, especially when they're in the rights of way, that we will put trees back up. So this grant will allow us to dialogue with trees that are on property that abuts the streetscape. It's an award for $7,000, and because we're doing this match, it will allow us to put all of that towards the purchase of trees. So it's a variety of trees. Some will be Kwanzaa cherries, some will be replacement of oaks or maples that have come down, but this is particularly along Charlton Street. I don't know if Tim can show you, but there was something to the effect of 22 trees that are slated to come down. And so in absence of having another plan, you lose 22 trees on your streetscape. That's less shade, that's problems with climate change and flooding in streets because all of a sudden you don't have the root system anymore. So we have a pretty intense timeline on which to put our energies towards. We're going to work. Wayne is already doing work outreaching, but we will have an effort where we do these tree plantings. I'd love to have the board come and help us dig some holes with Wayne. Obviously the state was very slow in getting out their awards. They told us to start with a January timeline. They just gave us the announcement a week ago. I was hoping for it, and so was Wayne. To hear around Earth Day, but that didn't happen either. So I think this will be great. I don't know if you want to comment about that priority for you as being the director for this aspect of planning for the streets.
Sure. I think it's a great initiative. We've taken some strides in other areas too. One point of note, the new stormwater management bylaw that was approved at town meeting earlier this May, actually included an applicability threshold or criteria in there that tree clearing of lots, for instance, will now be a project that could be potentially captured under the bylaw, where previously that wasn't, that there was a little bit of a gray area, that if a lot was clear cut but not stumped, that you weren't changing that surface runoff. So that's something along the same vein here, I would say. We've been working on some other private property development in which they'll be potentially grading or taking down trees in the right-of-way to facilitate their projects. So we've, in the meantime, as part of our trench and right-of-way permit program, we've issued conditions. DPW's issued conditions in the area to preserve the rural character of the roads. That's really what we want to do. And I think as far as this program goes and the location that we've set out to plant trees, I think again it's trying to establish a sense of place downtown and the streets adjacent there too, to make it more of a destination. I think it goes along with beautification efforts and all of those things that we've been seeing downtown that we've been hearing a lot of praise on, quite frankly. So as far as an initiative for DPW, it's something that I'm very supportive of.
Well, tell Wayne thank you for helping me with that.
I asked him to come. He wants to stay more in the
He's
background,
humble.
but he's very much appreciative
very
of this
excited.
and was excited to work on it and very excited to get going. He'd be asking me constantly for updates where we stood with the grant, so I know he's eager to get going.
Yeah, they wanted us to go with smaller caliper trees. They were wondering why we were getting larger caliper, which is the width of the actual trunk. And I told them, I said, we want to give these trees the best start they can. I said they're right along the roadway, so they said, oh, that's a good reason. So anyway, we're happy about that. Tell them thank you, and thank you, Jared, for staying for the evening.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Jared.
The next item is just to let the board know, as you remember, at the height of the pandemic, as we were trying to be very supportive of our businesses, I had reported about a particular grant that was coming out in the later part of the pandemic through the Massachusetts Growth Capital Corporation. And this was not a grant that you had to get reimbursement for. It was an outright capital grant that could be used by any business. We were having some issues related to a licensing problem with one of our local businesses, and at that time, because I had included that in my manager's report, Selectman LeBlanc had said maybe we could do some personal outreach to that particular business, which was Cafe Veranda. I want you to know that we had already mentioned that our new Director of Planning and Economic Development had already started to outreach, and he did for a number, more than I think 24 different businesses. We were informed by the owner, who happened to stop by, how grateful he was because he had applied and been awarded $30,000 for his small business, and that's an outright grant to him and good for him. And they could have gone upwards of $75,000, but I know that he was all smiles, and that will help him pay expenses related to payroll losses, utility bills, and general loss of business. So we don't know all of the businesses because you have to have the secret individual password, but I'm sure we'll hear. I know Tony went to every single business that he could and was trying to really impress upon him. This is not what you think. It's not difficult. difficult, just do it. But, so hopefully we have other ones that have benefited. So thank you very much, Tony, and thank you, Selectman LeBlanc, for encouraging us to do that. The next item is just a little bit of sad news. Our building commissioner, Robert Duffy Lanciani, has announced his official retirement due to some family medical matters. I want to have the board know that we're going to have on Thursday, June 24th at noon, to wish him and his family well. And also during this time period, where we know it's transition, we know he's been very, very dedicated to his job in trying to balance the needs of family medical pressures along with being the building commissioner. Having said that, both he and I have gone through the process of trying to find a building commissioner, which is no easy task in the Commonwealth, let me tell you. There are positions all the time that are open that cannot be filled. I am very pleased to say that on Monday, June 28th, Oxford will have a new full-time building commissioner, and Duffy's going to work with them on the crossover. Patrick Dahlgren, who is the current assistant building commissioner of the city of Marlborough, he's very excited about coming aboard and has a really terrific wide breadth of experience, and has been the assistant commissioner and also interim commissioner in the city of Marlborough. I look forward to bringing him on board with us. He lives fairly local, and I think we'll have a commissioner for a long time, and I look forward to that as well. Carbuncle opening day, Shelley Lambert has asked me to announce, obviously, that we are opening on Saturday, June 19th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is a great day of activities that are going to be planned that are fun for the whole family. There'll be popcorn, face painting, lawn games, glitter tattoos. I got to get one of those. Kids Zumba, TikTok dances, and more. And the opening day is being sponsored by Cecilia Smolensky Millette Trust and is free for the whole family. Just let's hope it's be nice weather. And the next item is just, I told you about the Aquarium merger. I just want the public to know that they can go onto the Department of Public Utilities. Anybody who is an Aquarium water customer, they can go on the matter on June 30th at 10 a.m. if they want to attend and actually give any testimony. It's a multi-step process, but I feel we should be obliged to tell residents who are Aquarium customers that they can do that. Juneteenth holiday, last year, June 19th, was added to the list of official holidays under the MGL Chapter 4, Section 7, Paragraph 18. Of course, Juneteenth commemorates the end of slavery in the United States, and it is an opportunity to reflect on the need to continue working towards racial justice. And on June 19th, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger and his Union troops landed in Galveston, Texas, and announced that the Civil War had ended. And Major General Gordon read a proclamation declaring that all enslaved people were free, and in recognition of that holiday, Town Hall and the library will be closed on Friday, June 18th, going forward as a both municipal and state holiday. The date that will be taken as a holiday will obviously move, and next year it will be on a Monday. At first, when they did this, it wasn't quite clear that it was going to apply to municipalities in the same way. They clarified the language since last summer, and we're doing it very similar to all other local municipalities. The next item is to announce that we have a new superintendent that is coming on board, Michael Lucas. We have Michael Lucas in facilities. And we have Michael Lucas coming on as superintendent of schools. He is going to have a meet and greet on Tuesday, June 29th. If any of the board members are interested in meeting him personally, the superintendent Nash is going to take him around to all different places, show him all the little places in town, and maybe we can put together a little not quorum, but we can put together a little opportunity for you guys to meet him too. DPW Appreciation Luncheon, I just want to give my hat off to Jared, who continued the tradition that we had started with appreciating the staff for National Public Works Week, and that happened on June 9th. And there was a luncheon that Jared had put together at Carbuncle Beach House for our DPW staff, and it was well attended and well appreciated. The next item is just to let you know that the fire department fitness equipment that they had received with a grant funding and also coupled with some donation monies, that they now have both Station 1 and 2 that have been outfitted with fitness equipment. And I want to thank everyone who's involved in both the procurement and the assembly of the equipment to improve our overall fitness and the morale of the department. And finally, the Oxford Fire Department, I don't know if you had an opportunity to see it, not everybody's reading the regular paper, but the Oxford Fire Department was featured in a recent article by the Telegram and Gazette, which discussed the dangers of an anaphylactic shock, and the author, who happened to write for the Telegram, talked about the fast action of our department as they raised her to the hospital because she was having a serious emergency, and the article supported the fine work of our men and women in the department. Not every day you get to save the life of a reporter, and they do really nice things like write a nice article about you. So we want to thank that reporter and thank our department for always answering the call as they do. And that's end my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Selectmen's announcements, Selectmen travel.
I think you.
Did I miss something?
Bartlett Pond Dam, I think.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry, I did.
Brushed over that.
Yeah, so we're going to have a meeting to have Mr. Glenn Kravosky, who wants to come before the board to talk about the private dam, which is the Bartlett Pond Dam. Which is one of, again, those high-risk hazard dams. It was considered one of 13 by the Massachusetts State Agency that would be targeted for consideration to be removed. And so the actual owner of the dam has been working with Mr. Kravosky, and they are doing their notice of application, and we're going to allow him to come and talk to the board because it has obviously environmental implications, but I think he can speak to that, and he was requesting that. But I didn't want to just have him come without you not knowing about that. They have already submitted their application, and I put some pictures up there. Asked him to do that so you can see what it is, but it's part of a whole return to natural restoration of water bodies that were so-called artificially created for industrial reasons, and why if the actual dam were to let go, it can create just a catastrophic event for people downstream and also for wildlife and all of that kind of stuff. So I'll let him kind of explain that, but I didn't want him not to think that we weren't going to have him on a future board meeting, so we can work that out with the chairman. Thank you for bringing my eyes to the attention. I didn't see that.
Thank you, Selectman Triano. Nothing?
I got nothing.
Selectman LeBlanc.
Oh, I have like 10 things. I'm just kidding.
I'm glad you did.
I actually do want to just thank Mr. Souza again for helping that gentleman. He came kind of to the board's attention and to the town manager's attention because he had some repairs that he needed to do, and in the middle of the pandemic. And I just want to say thank you for taking the kinder approach and helping him out. My best to Duffy, Mr. Linciani. I wish him well. And welcome to Mr. Dahlgren, and welcome to the superintendent. And I just want to say I've heard nothing but wonderful things about the interim superintendent. She had 2 tours here, not just one. So thank you to her for doing what she did. So and everything she did to keep us afloat during some tough times with the pandemic. That was not easy. And so my thanks to her as far as that's concerned. And that is it.
Very good points. Very good. Selectman Daniels.
Just one thing. In lieu of the passing of the Worcester police officer, I believe it was the next day or a couple days after his passing, I know that to have a very emotional event like that happen that affects so many people in the area, as professionals in public safety and public service, to be able to take a training opportunity from that, learn something from that, and then while you're still going through the mourning process of it, it's really impressive that the professionals can do that. I know Oxford Police Department, within a day or two of that incident, obviously they can't stop doing their day-to-day job to mourn the loss of a brother. But they took that opportunity to review their SOPs and then take their equipment out, water rescue throw bags, and practice throwing those bags. It is a skill to be able to do that and to hopefully prevent this incident from happening again in the future. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Oxford Police Department, as I'm sure many police departments and fire departments took something from this, but definitely Oxford was out there within the day, making sure that they're continuing to be safe as well. So.
Thank you.
And that's all.
That was a great addition. I forgot to say that. Thank you.
As I always said, we got some great people in this town. We're very fortunate. So I don't have anything either, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Should I make it my longest motion of the night?
Make a
If
motion
you
to adjourn. No. Want a second?
Second.
Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. For an affirmative, one absent. We are adjourned, and I thank you.